No problem. Yeah, start from the top. So one is one. Two is one. That's the virtual. Okay. One is one.
They text. Yeah, I see that. No, no, it's like. Who cares?
Good afternoon again. With regards to public testimony, if you are planning to address the board under non-agenda public communication, you'll need to make sure that you submit your slip before the meeting begins. However, if you are speaking on a specific agenda item, make sure that you submit your speaker slip before the item is called for discussion. Once the item is called for discussion, speaker slips will no longer be accepted. For today's meeting, the chair has requested that public testimony be limited to 2 minutes. So if you have anything prepared, go ahead and adjust it to the allotted time. Thank you. Hi, I just want to check and make sure, is this member Fitzgerald?
Yes, it is. Can you see me?
hold on just a minute. I'm going to promote you to panelists to see if we can, to test out your video. Member Fitzgerald, you should be able to take yourself off of mute and to display your video. Member Fitzgerald, can you hear me? I'd also like to note that we'll need to keep the aisleways clear due to the fire code. So please do not stand in the aisle or any walkway. You'll have to find somewhere else. Thank you. Member Fitzgerald, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We can see you. And Member Stigler Granados, you can go ahead and display your video and come off of mute.
It says that you have my video disabled. Oh, there we go.
And once again, if you have submitted a request to speak online, that is solely for virtual comments and if you're attending the meeting virtually. So if you are here in the room, please make sure that you fill out a physical speaker slip that are located in the back of the room.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our April 9th APCD Governing Board meeting. I'd like to ask Madam Clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Birkbeck Garcia. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that members Fitzgerald and members Member Fitzgerald will be joining us virtually as permitted by the Brown Act under just cause due to emergency circumstances. And Member Stigler Granados will be joining us virtually as permitted by Brown Act under just cause due to travel on official business for another state or local agency. Member Fitzgerald, can you please confirm that you have a family emergency that prevents you from participating in person and whether there is anyone present with you that is 18 years of age or older?
Yes, I can confirm it is a family medical emergency and there is no one present here with me, 18 years or older.
Thank you. Member Stigler Granados, can you please confirm that you are traveling on official business for a state agency and whether there is anyone present with you that is 18 years of age or older?
Yes, I can confirm I'm traveling on official business for a state agency, and there is no one over the age of 18 with me.
Thank you. All remaining board members are participating in person. With that, Member Aguirre?
Here.
Member Bush?
Here.
Member Campbell?
Here.
Member Duncan,
Thank you, present.
Member Fitzgerald,
Present.
Member Gloria,
Here.
Member Gomez,
Here.
Member Koval.
Here.
Member Lawson Remer. Here. Member Stigler Granados,
Here.
Chair Burkett Garcia.
Here.
Thank you.
I'd also like to note for those of you that are here that on today's agenda, we will be moving item E4 to be considered prior to item E3. Madam Clerk, do you mind providing public testimony announcement for non-agenda?
Thank you. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. We have one request to speak under non-agenda public communication. Our virtual caller, Truth. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. And you can use the timer that will be on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks. It's Truth. APCD staff, great job on updating the sign-up rules and system so that someone can sign up to speak on more than one item within one sign-up round. I also really appreciate APCD visiting the city of Escondido and meeting the people where they're at. I'd like to see APCD start visiting every city so people can get to know what the agency does, who's on the board, and where they should report their air quality concerns. Go past just the operatives that attend once in a while. And based on APCD's air monitors, Mexico's latest sewage pollution at the highest was almost 30 times worse since the EPA and Green Water stopped the ozone bubble projects. Went from a max of only 20 parts per billion to a very dangerous 557 parts per billion on March 19th. So APCD should reach out to the EPA to request a new version of that ozone project to be reinstated so that you could have less to respond to. And for APCD specifically, I have a problem with the air monitors themselves. They've been showing Nestor having much higher readings than IB. Yet IB and Nestor are only 2 miles apart at average from each other, 5.9 miles at most, and only one street apart at least. They experience similar toxin levels. And I've been questioning APCD's air monitor and IB since September 2025. I'm thinking maybe it's the salty air that is corroding your readings, because just to prove how bad the salt can be, for those of you who visited IB, you know Surfhenge, the cool, colorful sign near the pier. Well, the people who helped design that warned about the salt's corrosiveness. Somebody didn't listen, and then the city's name at the top had to later be replaced. So please investigate this potentially faulty air monitor issue, because if this board won't, I absolutely will initiate public records requests until it's resolved. I want answers as transparent as when I discovered the text messages that prove the former county public health officer and Keith's omission of health facts that Marcus and others fought back against. And I really want to start looking at the other air quality issues in the county that have gone unaddressed, such as landfills, the river, San Diego River, increased traffic, increased commercial trucks, Navy vessels, and battery energy storage sites. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony under non-agenda public comment.
Thank you. The next agenda item is C, approval of statement of proceedings, minutes for the February 12th, 2026 meeting. Madam Clerk, could you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. We have received no request to speak under this item.
Great. Are there any comments from any of our colleagues? No?
Second.
Thank you.
There is a motion to approve. Since we do have virtual members joining us, we will need to do a roll call vote. So with that, Member Aguirre,
Yes.
Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Duncan,
Aye.
Member Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Member Gloria,
Aye.
Member Gomez,
Yes.
Member Koval, Member Lawson Remer, Member Stigler Granados,
Yes.
Chair Burkett Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members who are present and those joining us virtually voting aye.
Thank you. Now we are going to the consent agenda, item D1. Authorize Air Pollution Control Officer to award as needed metals analysis contract to a third-party contractor. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item, as well as to move any item from the consent calendar to the regular agenda. And we have received no request for public comment or to move any items from the consent calendar to the agenda.
Does anyone have any questions on this consent agenda item? Could I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan?
Aye.
Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Member Gloria?
Aye.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval? Member Lawson Reamer? Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Chair Burkbeck Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present and joining us virtually voting aye.
Thank you, everyone. Our next agenda item is item E1. This is selection of officers for vice chair for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board and for our military liaison. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions?
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of any comments by staff or by the chair.
Thank you. Okay. Can we go ahead and let's open comment first, right? Okay, no, let's go ahead and do the public comments first.
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia. We have one virtual caller and 6 requests to speak that are here in the room. We'll start with those that are in person first. I'd call forward Anthony Dang. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record, and there will be a timer on the screen in the upper corner.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Anthony Dang, and I'm speaking on behalf of Climate Action Campaign, where we are fighting for an affordable and climate pollution-free San Diego. We'd like to express our support for board member Paloma Aguirre for vice chair of the APCD governing board. In our work advocating for clean air and healthy communities across San Diego, we've seen firsthand how Paloma engages with constituents, particularly those in communities heavily affected by air pollution near the Tijuana River sewage crisis. She's thoughtful in policy, listens to residents, and she takes the connection between policy and public health very seriously. The amount we see Paloma in community and listening to families and constituents, and also communicating with them through her platforms is unparalleled. Not only does she have this firsthand experience with the sewage crisis, but as a county board of supervisor, she has a unique 360 purview of policies reaching across our region, making for an excellent vice chair pick. Having a vice chair who is genuinely engaged with community concerns matters. We believe Paloma Aguirre brings that quality to this role alongside her policy expertise. We encourage the board to elect her as vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sharon Burney Cloward. You will have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Sharon Burney Cloward. I'm president of the San Diego Working Waterfront. Before I make my comments, I want to thank all of you who sit on this board for your time. It's an important organization. I'm here today to speak in support of appointing member board Laura Koval as vice chair of the governing board. Laura has demonstrated a strong understanding of the role and responsibilities of the AIRE district since she's become a member. She has demonstrated a collaborative approach to working with stakeholders and also working with a working relationship with your board and your staff. For the regulated community, the relationship between staff, the board, and us in the community is important, as we think Laura has a great fit for that role. Laura also brings an important voice for the other communities in San Diego, which is most important because a lot of times we spend time on the hot spots, but we don't get a lot of attention for some of the other areas around our county. Laura can balance that as well as bringing issues from other parts of the county for consideration in many discussions the AIRE district has. These comments are not intended to indicate any negative comments about other candidates. Specifically, Supervisor Gary, you're a great member of this board and you have been working hard on some critical issues, including cross-border sewage. Supervisor Aguirre has multiple and complicated issues she oversees for the benefit of the whole county, and we appreciate your efforts on clean water and clean air. We believe diversity in leadership and representation is an important part of APC board, and we would encourage you to the consideration of Laura Cabal for vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Munger. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Thank you, Jack Monger, representing the Industrial Environmental Association. Good afternoon, board members. I'm really pleased to see that there is such interest in providing leadership for this organization from a variety of its members. That's a good sign, I think, for the board. Here today, though, to reiterate and support, as Sharon Cloward has, board member Laura Cabal for this role. And there are just a couple of reasons that I've observed over the last year that makes me very supportive of what she brings to this group. Specifically, watching her preparation and attendance at meetings, always there, always ready to go, always having read the information. And I think all of you know that's not really exactly a common trait among a lot of elected officials. So it's I'm very pleased to see her give it that commitment. And then, I mean, even to the point of last year of scheduling ankle surgery around this board's meeting so she wouldn't have to miss the meeting. So I would suggest that that's a fine example of her dedication, not to mention the fact that she cares about these issues. She represents the East County, which would be really positive to have her on this group. So again, I would support Laura Cabal and hope you will do the same for vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charles Reilly. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. You can begin by stating your name for the record.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Charles Reilly, and I'm speaking on behalf of the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club, whose mission is to preserve, protect, and enjoy the planet. I'm here today to express our strong support for Supervisor Paloma Aguirre as vice chair of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District. Supervisor Aguirre brings something essential to this leadership role: a deep lived understanding of the communities most impacted by air pollution. She represents the South Bay, where residents continue to face disproportionate exposure to harmful air from cross-border pollution and further industrial emissions impacting the South Bay of San Diego. These are communities that have too often been overlooked, yet bear some of the greatest environmental and public health burdens in our region. Throughout her time in public service, Supervisor Aguirre has been a consistent and effective champion for the environment. She has elevated the voices of many communities, has demonstrated impacts on advancing infrastructure funding for the Tijuana River pollution crisis, and has worked to ensure clean air policies throughout the entire county of San Diego, not just those that she represents. At a time when our region faces persistent air quality challenges, from localized pollution hotspots to the broader impacts of climate change, we need leadership that is both grounded in community realities and committed to bold, equitable solutions. Supervisor Aguirre is exactly that leader. Her appointment as vice chair would strengthen this board's ability to advance policies to protect public health, reduce air quality pollutants, and ensure that every community in San Diego County, regardless of zip code, has access to clean air. I respectfully urge the board to support Supervisor Aguirre for vice chair and thank all the board members for all of your commitment to fighting for clean air here in San Diego County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Yasmin Vargas. You will have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Jasmine Vargas. I am the Air Quality and Clean Ports Campaign Director for Environmental Health Coalition, and I'm here representing a number of community members from the port side of San Diego and the international border and all over that have been facing some of the worst air quality in the region for decades, and something that this particular agency is tasked to be addressing. And to do that, I think this board would benefit from a vice chair that has been championing that for years, ever since their time in Imperial Beach. And that is Supervisor Paloma Aguirre, who has been on the forefront of the Tijuana Valley sewage crisis, as well as the representing and making sure that the communities that have been facing some of the worst air quality that she represents are being heard. And time and again, we come to this board and we ask for your support in addressing these, including today and decisions you'll be making. And I see Paloma and her diligence in addressing those issues and making sure that every point is heard and all the board members are educated on the subject, but ultimately is here to support and represent her community and the communities of the entire region. And so I would love for you all to consider that as you're making your deliberations today. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jose Franco Garcia. You have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi, everybody. Jose Franco Garcia, Executive Director at Environmental Health Coalition. Again, with some of the sentiments that other people said, thank you all for your participation and contributions on this board. It's such an important board. I know we've always looked to make sure the Air Pollution Control District Board is representing a full scope of, environmental and air quality issues throughout San Diego. So I appreciate everybody participating in this and vying for these positions that are really important. As the Executive Director of Environmental Health Coalition, I do want to support Supervisor Paloma Aguirre for the vice chair position. I say that both as the Executive Director of Environmental Health Coalition, but also as a constituent in her district. I've grown up here in San Diego, actually grew up like a lot of people in that area in both sides of the border, have lived in Nestor, right next to the Imperial Beach in that area, continue to live in Chula Vista and work in that National City area. So many areas all connected in that district. And we've seen Supervisor Aguirre, president of the community, bringing these issues up here at this board, at the Board of Supervisors, trying to look for different solutions and creative ways to work with the community to combat some of the air quality issues that are attacking our community. All of you are here to support air quality, so we really appreciate all of you. But definitely, Supervisor Aguirre has shown that leadership even before she was an elected official, and so we really do respect that and appreciate that. And with that, would support her and hope that you support her as vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Truth. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and you can begin by stating your name for the record.
Hey, it's Truth. I know the cities of Imperial Beach and Santee very well. I've attended years worth of council meetings in both. Both have pollution issues that have been ignored. But what's important to running a meeting is experience, character, and heart. Laura's been on APCD for a while, has stepped in for the mayor, and even attended SANAG meetings during its most stressful and corrupt era. When Paloma Manuela was mayor, her behavior was sometimes combative towards both public and colleagues. As far back as 2024, she tried to censor IB resident Baron Partlow from speaking. She was disrespectful to Councilmember Jack Fisher whenever he had his own ideas. At the March 3rd Board of Supervisors meeting, she yelled at Joel Anderson after he asked her a question to help her own cause. In over 3 years, Laura has only missed about 2 meetings because she was injured and had family emergencies. So Manuela's attendance pot shot at the last meeting was a complete fail, especially when there's a viral video I posted of Manuela running away during a council meeting. When I've had concerns or questions, Laura has always listened, even when I was too harsh. Back when I was able to talk to Manuela, her answers came from a place of veiled arrogance. When I publicly questioned her potential conflicts of interest, she provided no public answers. When I revealed a life-altering issue, Manuela literally crossed her fingers, wishing me the worst. I posted that video too. On the flip side, Laura went out of her way to try to help me achieve the best, and I know she silently helped others as well. Mark has offered a major improvement to APCD because he listens and considers everyone's perspective, and I know Laura does the same. I've never seen Laura disrespect anyone, not even when others were unnecessarily rude to her, which is exactly what Manuela did at her very first APCD meeting, which wasn't that long ago. We need someone like Laura Cobal for vice chair who has proven fiscal responsibility, like the city of Santee, can make key federal connections for funding, and will read 300-page-long documents in order to make an educated decision. They don't call Laura the queen of solutions for nothing. So don't make this a political power play. Make it about bettering the agency. Please make that your focus. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First and foremost, I want to say I feel very lucky that we have such wonderful people that are both stepping up with their willingness to be vice chair. We couldn't be a luckier committee because the quality of both of these members is phenomenal. So whoever I end up with vice chair, I will be very happy to be working with them. That also said, I do want to mention that everyone who has been on this board has put in a lot of effort, and I have taken a lot of time in the last month considering who I'm going to vote for, and it has been a very, very difficult decision. I've gone back and forth many times, but I need to do what my heart says, and I need to do what I feel is best for this board. And you may agree with me or you may not agree with me, and that's okay, because that's what we're here to do, is to have civil discussion and civil discourse. And we're not always going to agree, but I'd like to nominate Paloma Aguirre as my vice chair. I'd like to make that as a motion. Would anyone else like to speak or make a second motion?
Sure, I'll go. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the comments of everybody today. I don't really disagree with any of the comments that were made. For me, whether I come here or Sandag or any board, the sole reason I come to these boards is to do the agency's work. I mean, that's it. I'm not here to read political statements, to curry votes, or to, you know, whatever, appeal to different demographics or whatever. My deal is to just do the agency's work. You know, that's what we're here for. And particularly when you're hiring somebody to be the chair or the vice chair, that's of the utmost importance, because for me, it's that all the board members and the staff in particular are treated with full respect to help us do our work. Now, when we advocate as a board member, that's a little bit different than leading the meeting, right? I want the meeting to be led actually, you know, pretty dispassionately. Like, for instance, when I'm mayor of my city, and I try to run the meetings differently, really, even than when I was a council member. But for agencies, that's really my focus. You know, we're not hiring today. It's not a litmus test on who was the better, you know, sewage advocate, right? I have worked with Supervisor Aguirre on sewage issues when she was mayor. I remember when we found out that our plant was non-operational due to damage and not being maintained down at the Jack Dempsey Holder Center at a meeting we were at, and it took the whole meeting to sit through before I could kind of grill the IBWC commissioner at that time. And Mayor Aguirre at that time, she pushed that out into the Union Tribune, and she made this a much bigger issue. We worked together separately and together in, I don't know how many, 20 or 30 congressional visits in DC. So on that issue, you know, if I was hiring for that, I would hire her to do it, whether we get along on everything or not. But for me, for vice chair, it doesn't mean one of these people won't be here at our meetings advocating as hard as they possibly want, but just for the calmness to me of the meetings, and it's not a slam or a slight on anybody, it's just the demeanor of running the meeting. I'm going to be voting for Laura for that reason, to try to keep us running dispassionately, equally, and fairly. And honestly, one of the things I like about Laura is this agency is not just the sewage issue, and that's coming from the second most sewage affected community, which I pretty much work on about 30 hours a week, including, I'll provide some updates when we get to that other agenda item from yesterday and the day before. But we have a lot of actual issues that we're learning about and working on, and we have very, very limited funds. And yes, we are charged with air quality. We are charged with air quality throughout this region. There is treatment of the sewage fumes and things, and I'm supportive of the air filters. I'm supportive of what we can do, that it is a true emergency for those communities, the air separate from the flows. Solving that issue to me is solving the flows and treatment of the sewage ultimately. But those impacts, I mean, if Berry Elementary School gets those readings, it's, you know, obscene. However, the mission of this agency, most of the air quality work that we do and what we are really charged with, and when this agency was created, and the history of it and the other air quality agencies is the treatment of the air pollution that's in our air throughout the district that really impacts a lot of the underprivileged communities. And also, even though I don't put Coronado in that realm of being underprivileged, even though we have a lot of enlisted sailors who are considered extremely low income. Our air quality is also massively impacted from actual vehicle and other pollution that we really need to focus on. So for that reason, I'll stop my long talk, but I respect both of them and I'll be voting for Laura.
Member Gomez.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll be happy to second the motion of the nomination for Supervisor Aguirre. I do have to say, and thank you, Member Duncan, for what you just stated. And I want to restate the importance of focusing on air quality, and bring it back as to why I'm supporting Member Aguirre. I think there is nobody here that can say that she hasn't been championing the Tijuana switch, and thank you for that. But also in my relationship with her before any of this really has been beyond the Tijuana sewage. So I want us to, even though she's been pushing on that, I do know that her commitment really has been about South Bay communities. And yes, air quality impacts the whole region, but I really want us to remember that not all communities are impacted the same. And as an environmental justice member in this body, we do have specific communities that happen to be in the South Bay that have been historically impacted, and we have not done our job to improve air quality. And I know that Member Aguirre, even though has been focusing on the Tijuana River, I have had these conversations that I do want to bring back the focus on really focusing us on how to address air quality overall, because at the end of the day, these impacted communities deserve that. And I think that will result in non-impacted communities to get a benefit of improving our regional air quality. So I'm looking forward and refocusing this agency on pushing that agenda collectively, because this is not on the onus of the chair or the vice chair. That's on the onus of all of us in this body to bring back that focus. So yeah, thank you.
Member Bush.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I agree with everything that everyone said here. Honestly, this is a very difficult decision. I will be seconding the nomination for Member Koval to be the Vice Chair, and want to explain why and just address, confront the politics and some of the kind of partisan politics that I don't want to be part of the board. So as you know, Chair, for me, I've worked really hard to make sure that air pollution, air quality, and health overall, that it's not partisan, that it's not politicized. So we have some new board members, Laura being one of them, that are of a different party and political affiliation than me, Republican, and that I did have concerns, worries, fears, if you will, that just because I didn't know you, that you might bring in a partisan look on to air quality and health in some of our communities, like mine in National City, that have been heavily impacted by diesel particulate matter, have high rates of asthma and cancer. So, but at the end of the day, I want us to not politicize that. We need to work all together in one, and I want to keep, all of that out and stick to the facts, stick to health, stick to what our mission is. I think you've done that, and I think you've done an incredible job, Member Koval, and done the work. That's why I appointed you and two other Republican members to our Planning and Policy Committee, And I've been really impressed by your work, by your diligence, by you showing up. There isn't a single regulation that I'm aware of that you opposed, that our staff has brought forward. So when I look at the voting record, it has been pro-environmental and pro-EJ. And I want to show that and demonstrate that we can be a board that works together and does that. And so that's why I approached you back in December with that idea, before I knew that that my colleague, Member Aguirre, that was interested in the position. Now, I will say that for Member Aguirre, so I'm going to be happy either way how this plays out. I think that Member Aguirre, I agree with everyone here, has done more than anybody in this room, I would argue, to address the Tijuana sewage river crisis. When I was chair and when I was working with member then Chair Shu, we went above and beyond to address and even pushing our staff far out of our comfort zone. That also, I think, to Member Gomez's point, I do think that there needs to be more of a balance and a shift. I did have some concerns that I addressed with a Member Aguirre about how the focus and the push on the Tijuana sewage river crisis and us kind of stepping a little bit outside of what really some of our role is in terms of even the filtered program, right? We don't do indoor health, but at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I think is right to address an emergency, a crisis. I don't regret what we did, because at the end of the day, for our citizens, we should go above and beyond. We are government, so it kind of doesn't matter which agency handles what. We should all step up, and I think we did that. However, I know that the sewage, our response that in creating a program out of thin air, really that's also set back some of our other priorities. So for example, in National City, we have our PAIR program, we have our air filters, we have our 2 air monitors, and those have gotten delayed over a year. So I want to and I address those concerns, and I do believe, and I appreciate you, Member Aguirre, for ensuring that other agencies are going to step up. And so I do think that will happen, and I appreciate you hearing the concerns on that. And I also had some concerns on just the approach of the push, like pushing, some of the communication with our APCD staff by you and by some of your staff. I didn't like it, but I addressed it with you, and I appreciate you for clearing that up and working out with them. So I want to give you credit for that. But overall, these are difficult decisions. I want to just appreciate, and because I did early approach Member Koval, I will be supporting her, but that isn't a no to you. Like I'm going to work with you and continue to do the advocacy, but I just want to be transparent up front, like what factored into kind of my decision. But either way, moving forward, I have confidence no matter how this vote happens. I have confidence that all of us are going to continue to do the work and have transparent, open conversations, not bring overly bring partisan politics, not, kind of point fingers. We have to have these uncomfortable conversations and kind of confront things, but then, okay, now let's work towards it. How can we do better? And I appreciate that Member Koval has done that, and I've built a good working relationship. I didn't know you nearly as well as I've known Paloma, but I really appreciate your connecting and your openness to environmental justice and learning. And so I think you've done a great job. And Member Aguirre is going to continue to do an amazing, effective job, and she has already on the board and has pushed us. So with that's difficult decision, but I'm good with whatever happens today. I know we're going to continue to move forward as an agency and do the work. Thank you.
Member Lawson Remer.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to just thank both Laura and Paloma for stepping forward. It's so hard. It is very difficult to put yourself forward and volunteer for leadership. It's very vulnerable, and I really appreciate it from both of you. I will be supporting Supervisor Aguirre today. I would just want to say a few words as to why. I've just had the good fortune to collaborate with her for many years now specifically on air quality. Actually, we did not really know each other. And for the last 5 years since I was elected, she's just been like an extraordinary resource, ally, thought partner on how to tackle these really pressing issues around environmental justice and air quality, which I think is the central concern that we here at APCD are focused on. And she's brought a fierceness and a vision to that, and to always uncovering new resources, really an ability to find new paths forward when it did not seem obvious. And in fact, when the door seemed closed, to find a way around those doors. And I think given the sort of size of our budget and agency and how sort of small we are for such a huge task we have to tackle, I'm very much hopeful she'll be able to bring that kind of ability to, like water, find her way to be effective through all obstacles that I've really experienced with her. But I want to say to Laura, I just, I guess I get to say this because I represent the coast. I don't know you very well, but I really like sitting next to you. You have really good vibes. Very good vibes, which is really important. I've actually was just reading an article about an astrologist who's been making a killing in the stock market. So I'm really, yeah. So I'm definitely following my vibes lately. And just really appreciate you stepping forward as well. I hope to get a chance to work with you more over the next year or two. I hope you stay on this board and put yourself forward for leadership next year as well. There's always need for that and opportunity next year and the year after. I certainly know I had the experience of waiting 4 years on San Diego Community Power before I was put in a leadership position, even though that was my huge passion. So don't want to hope you don't take no, just to be, but to be, I really want to uplift and appreciate the kind of bipartisan spirit then of, that environmental justice and air quality really is a nonpartisan issue. It's something we all need to be passionate about and all need to care about. Public health, the idea that our kids should be able to breathe healthy air, that is not a Democrat or Republican issue. That is just a human issue. And I think the more we can center that in our work, I think the better off we're going to be. So I really appreciate you stepping forward and your leadership as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just want to confirm, Member Duncan, that your nomination was actually a motion for Member Koval.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second by Member Bush.
Does anyone else have any other comments they'd like to make before we call the vote?
I just wanted to get clarity. I thought there was a motion also for Supervisor Aguirre in a second. So I wanted to get clarity on the procedural stance of where we're at. If there was a substitute motion, I just didn't follow that.
No, there's no substitute motion. There are 2 motions currently on the floor. There can be, I'm sorry. Yes, there's 2 motions on the floor. According to Rosenberg rules, you would take the last motion that was made and then move to the initial motion.
And so the second motion that was made.
The second motion.
And which one was second?
The second one's for Member Koval.
If I may say.
Go ahead, Member Koval.
So thank you to everybody. I realize that people don't know me that well. And that I just completed my first year on the Air Pollution Control Board. Whatever happens, I'm fine with, obviously. Like Member Bush said, he asked if I'd be interested in vice chair, and I was vice chair on policy and planning. And I said, yeah, sure. And I'm that kind of person. So I've learned a lot on this board, and I, continue to work as I've always worked. That's just my nature. But just a little bit about myself. I've worked in 3 unique industries. When I was in my 20s, I was director of a Boys and Girls Club. I also worked in education, working in the Grossmont Union High School District. And then I also had a part-time job with San Diego Padres, and that ended up being my career. So then, private sector, and I retired as an executive for the Padres in 2011. And I started working for a water district. So not air, but water. I know a lot about water. I was with a water district for 12 years and went to water board meetings twice a month for 12 years. So definitely had a great education there. And actually yesterday I attended the decommissioning of the wastewater recycling plant in Santee. It was the first one in the country. So revolutionary stuff. If you ever want to talk water, I can talk water. And I invite you to Santee Lakes to see what we do. I've served on several committees. I didn't get involved in politics until my 50s. So I'm new to this. And I joined SANDAG right away, and I was on the Borders Committee for 4 years. During that time, we worked heavily on the Otay Mesa border crossing, learned a lot about that, witnessed firsthand what was going on down there with the air pollution and the freight trucks idling on the other side of the border. I'm on the River Park Conservancy, and I was a park director. So air is definitely, environmental issues are very important to me. That I say all this just because I want all of you to know me a little bit better. And I'm chatty and I like to get to know people. So beyond all of this, let's get coffee. Thanks.
Yes, Member Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I concur. The good vibes are there, Laura. I really appreciate that comment because it's true. Thank you for everybody who has expressed their opinion one way or another. I appreciate the support for both Laura and myself. I'm humbled by it. I just want to add that, you know, there were some comments about this being partisan. I think to Supervisor Lawson's Reamer point, I was thinking the exact same thing. Clean air is nonpartisan, right? We are tasked with controlling air pollution, whether from indirect sources or area sources. We have a very clear mandate, which is to control air pollution and create clean air, or ensure clean air for everyone, whether you're Republican, Independent, Democrat. I think that, to me, that is the clearest mandate that we have. And I am happy to follow the lead of the chair. The chair has expressed how she believes that the intersection of public health and air quality is extremely important. I know there were some comments about equitability countywide. Obviously, I represent the entire county, as does my counterpart, Supervisor Lawson Reamer. Sure. Do we bring up the sewage crisis a lot? Yeah, because it is the biggest environmental and public health crisis in not just this county, but in the nation. We know that many communities, thousands and thousands of people are being affected by it. But I want to express and take this opportunity to express that that is not my sole focus. We know that we have many other challenges when it comes to air pollution. Not even 2 years ago, we had the impacts from the battery energy storage facility in Escondido, right? And we have these challenges that we're facing with increased border crossings and commercial trade. And, you know, we cannot turn a blind eye to the implications of climate change and how our weather patterns are changing. And yes, those weather patterns do have impacts in our air quality, what for the better, for worse sometimes. So I want to make sure that I stated that. And for those who I haven't had an opportunity to get to know and that may not know me, just a little bit about my background. Yes, I have many years as a community advocate before I was elected to office, but I also served in the United States Congress under a senator, and I was in charge of their Environment and Public Works committee work, where we had a lot of work done that had Clean Air Act implications. So I know I get, you know, sometimes put in this box of the Tijuana sewage, but my educational background and training is in, you know, environmental conservation. So I think that these skills that I bring to the table and my ability to work in a nonpartisan or bipartisan fashion, as Mayor Duncan mentioned, our trip to DC, that I am very grateful to you, Mayor, for answering my call, and along with Mayor McCann, we put our philosophies aside and did the work together, and that resulted in the congressional appropriation money that that we now will benefit from at IBWC. So you know, I just again want to thank you all for your consideration, and thank you, Laura, for putting yourself forward. And you know, whatever happens, I think that this body is stronger because we're so invested and interested in the work that we're actually doing. So thank you very much.
Madam Clerk.
Oh, thank you. My apologies. I do want to clarify. The motion would be considered a substitute motion, and we would hear that first, and then we will move on to the motion for Member Aguirre.
So that means we would vote on one motion.
Would vote on the substitute motion initially, and then if that, depending on if
With the
passes or
results?
fails, right, passes or
Okay.
fails, then we'll move on to the next motion.
So the first motion, the substitute motion on the floor is for Laura, and then the initial motion was for Paloma. So first we'll vote on the motion for Laura, and then we'll, okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions before we call the vote? No, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
No.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
No.
Member Duncan?
Yes.
Member Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Member Gloria? Member Gomez?
No.
Member Koval?
Yes.
Member Lawson Remer?
No.
Member Stigler Granados?
No.
Chair Birkbeck Garcia.
No.
Thank you. That motion fails for lack of majority vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can we now proceed to the second motion?
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan?
No.
Member Fitzgerald? Member Fitzgerald has left the meeting. I will consider her vote absent. Member Gloria? Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval? Member Lawson Remer?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Member Fitzgerald, who has returned? I think she's having some technical issues. I will still consider her absent, and then we'll move to Chair Birkbeck Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye and with Member Fitzgerald absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Also part of agenda item E1, we'd like to open the floor for comments and nominations for military liaison from our board members. I did want to speak on this quickly. I had at the last meeting, both Member Duncan and Member Bush discussed their interest on this position. I was able to speak with both of them further, and I would happily like to nominate Member Duncan as our military liaison. Any comment?
I'll second.
I just want to clarify that
Sorry, a motion, not a nomination.
I just wanted to clarify there was no reason or procedural reason it could not be it could not be Member Duncan. I recall there being like certain constraints on which members could serve as this position.
I'll defer to council for that.
Previously, it was a member of the Board of Supervisors.
That's what I thought.
And that's been resolved now with the
Okay.
state legislation. So it's
Great.
It can be anyone.
Fantastic. Thank you to whoever fixed that.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you. I'm happy to do it. I work very closely with the military. I was with the commanding officer in the XO of Naval Base Coronado, which is actually 9 naval bases or facilities throughout the county. But in any event, I'm happy to take the position unless somebody else really is passionate about it, and fine with not taking it. But I'm happy to work hard on that relationship.
Thank you. Do you mind calling the roll, Madam Clerk?
There's a motion by Chair Birkbeck Garcia and a second by Member Bush.
Can I have a question?
Sure, Member Lawson Remer.
This is just for Member Duncan. I just would love to hear more about your vision of, I think this sounds great. I love the experience you bring. So just maybe share a little bit more about how you sort of intend to get our APCD and our local military to sort of better collaborate on this issue. And I think you clearly come with the background that gives you the granular understanding of sort of how the military operations run. So I just wanted to hear a little more.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. It's a good question because I also had the same question. Because, for instance, I would posit to this board, who were the last two military liaisons of this board on the Board of Supervisors, and what did they do and what was their plan, if any, because I'm fully unaware of any plan or what they did. So for me, you know, I have security clearance for all and access to all the bases, and I work very closely with them. But to a certain extent, it is a fresh playing field for me. What are the issues working with Paula and trying to figure out how can I be of service, since I am regularly in contact with these people. So for me, it's figuring out, because I do not know and have a list of 10 items that I think are pressing that this agency has ever expressed, or even really that I've ever heard one, other than the title of the position is to be the liaison and bring them closer together. So I work very well on reaching compromises with entities, and I think I do have a good relationship with speaking their language, but I think a lot of that question is really to be determined. And if you have ideas, I'm open to those. And if you have a big passion for potentially doing that and taking the role, I'd be happy to hear them and possibly support you to do it.
Oh, I'm very supportive of you taking the role. I think it's an incredibly important role. I think it's just extremely hard.
Yeah.
And so I think it's probably happy to like have a coffee, and maybe Paula has some notions, but to sort of to kind of go into that with some clarity of like what would be some of our asks.
That would be super helpful. And maybe we could even potentially put it on the policy and planning agenda or the board agenda for probably not the super longest item, but if people want to weigh in, I'm like to execute and have a plan. I'm not really, as I mentioned, when we chatted, looking for positions for resumes. So if there's something I feel I can have an effect on, then I'd like to do it. So happy to try to figure out what the goals are and how to achieve them. And I will say, you know, they do answer my calls. I have worked with them in a variety of issues, including even as the SANDAG Board of Director members, we have quite a bit. We do have meetings with the admirals. More than half of the Coronado Island, since they filled in the Spanish Bight a long time ago, more than half of it is military base. So, and all the kids I coached, dads were SEALs and helicopter pilots, and we've had 3 commanding officers in a row over the last 3 years that I'm really close with, and I'd like to work on it if we can bring this agency together. I guess the last thing I'll say, I don't think I've ever shared with this board, and I appreciate it, what our prior chair, Bush, said, which is, for me, yeah, this is definitely definitely not a partisan institution or agency. You know, when I grew up in Los Angeles and I played football, and how it worked for me was every day they would try to get us on the field before 3 o'clock, because at 3 o'clock was when they got the call of the smog alert, and we were not allowed to practice if we got the call and we weren't out of the locker room by 3. So they'd get us out and we'd practice, and every day I'd wake up with sore lungs from practicing in the smog. And you know, you're a 17-year-old kid and you want to play football, but I also remember I lived near the San Gabriel Mountains, and I could not see the mountains, even though they were, you know, taller than I could see because of the smog. So I guess the final piece of that is then later on in life, about 5 years ago, I went through stage 4 throat cancer and radiation and chemo and surgeries and, you know, feeding tube and all that stuff. So clean air is something that's real for me, even though my primary issue that I work on as a mayor of Coronado is the sewage issue. But for me, clean air is a personal passion, and that on this board, I think, is my main focus. So sorry to go off topic a little bit, but just wanted to share that.
If there's no more comments, I think we'll take this to a vote. Yep, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan?
Yes.
Member Fitzgerald?
Nope, she's off.
Member Fitzgerald has left the meeting. Member Gloria? Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval? Member Lawson Reamer?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes. Yes.
Chair Birkbeck Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. With Member Fitzgerald absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present and joining us virtually voting aye.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to item E2, appointments to the Standing Committee on Planning and Policy. Madam Clerk, could you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Birkbeck Garcia. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of any comments from the chair.
Great, thank you. First and foremost, it is been a pleasure to serve on the Planning and Policy Committee for the last few years, and especially this last year. I have grown a lot and learned a lot from the members that were on that. That being said, I have to agree with the positive vibes that Member Koval gives, and that she is willing to step up to do what she needs to do. She's sat and had a number of conversations with me. I've had the pleasure to meet her for coffee and sit and chat. And I've been very, very blessed to get to know her through the governing board at Planning and Policy Committee. And she served as my vice chair on the last Planning and Policy Committee this last year. I would like to make a motion to nominate her as chair of the Planning and Policy Committee, and Member Duncan, who has been amazing at wordsmithing. I think that's what his words were, and bringing a great perspective to some of our legislative stances, asking great questions, being interested. And so I'd like to start with that. I'd like to make a motion for Laura, Member Koval, to be chair, Member Duncan to be vice chair, and the appointments for the Planning and Policy Committee to also be Member Fitzgerald, who mentioned she was interested in continuing on the Planning and Policy Committee, Member Gomez, who has mentioned interest in rejoining. She had done a lot of work in the early days of the Planning and Policy Committee when we first joined the board together 5 years ago. And Member Bush, who's also been on the Planning and Policy Committee. So that is going to be my motion.
Thank you, Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. We have one request to speak on this item. Truth, you have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Sure thing. Hey, it's Truth. Based on the last 2 votes, I think what has been proven to me is that this is still a politically driven board that may be incapable of making nonpartisan decisions on who is actually qualified to serve in any position to the benefit rather than the detriment of the agency. And I'm actually concerned that there may be conflicts of interest clouding some people's vision. And some of them are obvious. But, you can go ahead, you can give me another creepy, evil smile, Manuela, but it doesn't change the unethical decisions. Maybe I should only support people for this committee based on their vibes. Like, can I go surfing with them? Maybe I shouldn't pick anyone who lives in IB. Seriously, I often compare APCD to SANDAG, which is not a compliment, it's an insult. And because of that, I think many people are going to soon learn about APCD, its boards, and its committees, including this one. Just a prediction. I've watched one planning and policy meeting just to see how it goes, because I don't want to speak on anything if I don't know anything about it. It was pretty simple, but with good discussion. It seemed like everybody got along. I enjoyed the close-ups of when people looked at their phones, especially John. Even better, Judy actually had something to say. So maybe she should stay on this committee so we can hear more from her. Maybe she should just be the chair because Laura is chair. I mean, that's really weird. Who would ever suggest that? I mean, what an interesting conundrum to run into. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, it's just like more hypocrisy. Overall planning seems like a very sound-minded group. I have no idea why that is. Could it be maybe, I don't know, politics? I hope not. That would be horrible. I would say feel free to switch it up with anyone else who can calmly express their ideas, but if it stayed the same, I'd support that. Maybe throw somebody completely inexperienced on there. That could be fun because, as long as it checks political boxes, I think you're good. I don't think any planning or budgeting is actually necessary based on this agency's past and current trajectory. I don't know. That's the vibe I'm getting today. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other comments from any of the members?
And we still do need a second.
Oh.
Member Campbell, thank you for seconding the motion.
If there's no questions or comments, can we go ahead with the vote?
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Duncan?
Aye.
Member Fitzgerald is absent. Member Gloria? Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval?
Yes.
Member Lawson Reamer?
Yes.
Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Chair Burkbeck Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. With Member Fitzgerald absent, that motion passes with those board members who are joining us in person and virtually voting aye.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we are going to consider agenda item E4 prior to E3. That is the Tijuana River Valley Emergency Air Improvement Relief Effort, IBWC program update. Madam Clerk, could you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Go ahead, APCO.
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia and board members. This item is in response to the governing board directives from the December 11th, 2025 meeting. And so we're here to provide an update on our Air Improvement Relief Effort, or IBWC program. I'm joined by Chief of Emission Reduction Strategies, Mike Watt, who will provide an update regarding our program implementation, staff's efforts related to additional funding requests for program continuation, as well as potential program expansion. There are no action requests on this item. However, the board may take action to provide additional direction to the Air Pollution Control Officer on this issue if desired. Next slide, please. So this slide highlights the key direction provided by the board regarding the IBWC program. In November 2024, the board approved using $2.7 million in AB 617 interest earnings to purchase air purifiers for impacted households with a goal of distributing up to 10,000 units. Several partners also contributed additional funding, including the US EPA, the County of San Diego District 3, the City of Solana Beach, and the California Air Resources Board. In December of 2025, the board allocated an additional $1 million in AB 617 interest earnings in order to serve more households using the existing distribution model. The board also directed staff to work with county, state, and federal partners to secure funding to significantly expand the program, specifically to distribute 30,000 additional purifiers with 3 smaller bedroom-sized units per household. I'm now going to hand it off to Mike Watt for updates on program implementation and expansion.
Thank you, Paula. Next slide, please. So to date, nearly 13,500 purifiers have been distributed to households within the program eligibility area. We have another 375 or so that are currently in the process of being delivered, and approximately 150 applications that are pending review that have come in the last week or so. About $250,000 remain from the additional $1 million AB 617 interest allocation this board approved in December, which is enough funding for about 1,000 additional units. Our vendor currently has approximately 300 purifier units that are immediately available and has indicated that additional units are expected to be available in June, so applicants may experience some delay in delivery times. We will continue accepting applications under the existing program structure until current funds are exhausted, at which time we plan to open up the program for a wait list as we transition to the expanded program that we'll talk about later. Next slide, please. So now I'll summarize some of the funding requests that we have pursued to support expansion of the program. First off, the County of San Diego Board of Supervisors approved $4 million in funding to support continued implementation of the program. Staff is currently negotiating a memorandum of agreement with the county to allow the district to formally accept these funds. This county contribution represents the most significant secured funding source to date for IBWC expansion and is estimated to provide funds for more than half of the 30,000 units the board requested. And I want to thank Vice Chair Aguirre for her leadership in helping to secure those funds from the county. Secondly, we have had conversations with California State Senator Stephen Padilla's office, who is leading efforts within the state legislature to secure cap and invest discretionary funding on behalf of the San Diego delegation. These discussions continue to advance, and the district remains engaged with state partners as the budget process moves forward. While APCD did explore federal appropriations and community project funding opportunities, the IDA program did not align with this year's federal funding criteria and priorities. Staff will continue to monitor future cycles for renewed opportunities. Next slide, please. We've also pursued multi-agency, multi-source approach to try to secure the resources needed to meet board direction. We've submitted a request to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency under the Clean Air Act, Section 105 U.S.-Mexico Border Region Program for $500,000, and CARB submitted an additional request for $300,000. We did learn last week that CARB's funding request to EPA unfortunately was not approved, but we did get news earlier today that EPA is planning to provide at least some level of funding for our request, and we hope to get more specifics on the exact dollar amount in the coming weeks. Another request for $750,000 was submitted to the North American Development Bank through their Community Assistance Program to help continue and expand IRA implementation. We've also had 2 meetings with CARB leadership to encourage support for our existing supplemental environmental project in an effort to secure additional funding from the source above and beyond the $130,000 that Paul had mentioned previously. We've also engaged with federal and state legislative delegations, along with other local government partners and philanthropic organizations to seek further support. These funding requests collectively aim to sustain program operations and support the board's directive to expand air purifier distribution significantly. Next slide, please. As previously discussed, the board directed staff to expand the IRA program by distributing 30,000 additional purifiers to eligible households. The expansion includes providing 3 units per household and shifting to smaller bedroom-sized units as long as they can be procured for under $210 per unit. Staff worked with the county's Department of Purchasing Contracting to issue an RFB for smaller purifiers, and based on RFB responses, smaller units can be procured for less than $210. We are currently working with DPC to finalize vendor agreements, which will enable the transition to bedroom-sized units. With these bid responses, staff believe the board's direction to expand the program to 30,000 purifiers and 3 smaller units per household is feasible, contingent on securing adequate additional funding. Next slide, please. The program will transition to offer 3 purifiers per eligible household early in fiscal year 26-27. As available funding allows, existing participants who previously received 1 purifier will be offered up to 2 additional smaller units. Important to note that at a rate of 2 smaller purifiers per existing participating household, we will not be able to serve everyone who has already received 1 unit with the currently available funding. If additional funding becomes available, new applicants may receive up to 3 smaller units. Certain situations may require case-by-case determinations on eligibility and number of purifiers, such as homes with ADUs or rooms for rent within existing households. To help ensure participant accountability, staff will continue to maintain records of purifier recipients. Staff will also continue quality assurance review on questionable or duplicate applications. The application process will be enhanced to require applicants to certify accuracy and acknowledge potential consequences for fraudulent applications or reselling of units. APCD will also continue to pursue funding to support this program expansion in an effort to reach distribution of 30,000 additional smaller purifiers. Programmatic changes needed to support the expansion will be implemented over the coming months. Next slide, please. That concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Yes, you can ask a quick clarifying question.
Before we go to public comment, just a quick clarifying question regarding the forthcoming money from the county. I know we're in discussion with MOU, but when you say subject to availability to expand the program, are you considering already those 4 million?
That's correct. And so we're still negotiating a contract, so I don't have an exact dollar amount yet, but if we're using a $200 per unit number, that'll get us, somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20,000 units, which is, more than halfway there, but not enough to get the full 30,000.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item?
Thank you, Chair Burke Garcia. We have 7 members of the public that wish to address the board. I'll begin with those that are here in the room. We'll start with Laura Wilkinson. I believe it's Sinton? Thank you. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. You can use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for seeing me today. My name is Laura Wilkinson Sinton. I represent StopTheSewage.org based in Coronado that has worked with many of you here in this room on this very issue in the water and air poisons in the Tijuana River Valley. A personal story, we adopted 2 dogs from an active duty Navy couple that lived below the 905 in a large house. Sean is an E7 that's currently on the USS Lincoln serving in the Strait of Hormuz at war. And his wife is an E7 who is in the house with her young daughters and with an elderly adult. Sean and Andy live in this house, and the air purifier she got through this program was a life changer for her. But the problem they have is she and her neighbors have to decide every night whether to drag that air purifier upstairs for her young daughter's room or leave it downstairs for the grandmother who has COPD. That's the problem. You have these 2-story homes, you have large homes in this area of Nestor. So to make that kind of decision, it's a horrible decision for any of them to have to make. And the essence of government for all of us is to protect the public. We know this problem is going to take years to fix. We're depending on a sovereign nation to cooperate with us, and they have their own issues as well with this construction timeline. This body does not want a Flint, Michigan situation on its watch, and we don't know how poisonous this is. There is no study that shows long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide gas, what that does to infants, what that does to immunocompromised people. We don't have the science yet. And I don't think anybody in San Diego County who is in any position of authority wants to find out. So please, for Sean and Andy's family, for all of the families that are affected here, including in Coronado, we have many neighbors in the Cays who are purchasing these same air purifiers because they can afford to do so. We have a lot of elderly population in the Cays who are immunocompromised, the Hermans, the Wilcoxes, the Pearsons. They've all reached out to me to say, what are they using? Can we use the same thing? So we ask that you take care of the South Bay, take care of the families that can't afford this, to respect the science and the public health scientists who study this every day. We look to you to protect us, and we ask that you not fail us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anthony Dang. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Good afternoon again, board. My name is Anthony Dang with Climate Action Campaign, and we are in strong support of continuing and expanding the AIRE program. Communities affected by emissions and toxic gases stemming from the sewage crisis continue to face public health impacts. Until long-term wastewater infrastructure is completed and proven effective, the AIRE program remains an essential effort to ensure the well-being of residents, K-12 students, workers, and frontline communities. We urge the district to continue to enhance this vital program moving forward, ensuring long-term funding and expanding the scope of the program to include more than one air purifier per household to optimally protect all impacted communities. Their program provides immediate relief and safeguards health in communities where support is desperately needed while advancing the established air quality, public health, and environmental justice goals of this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charles Riley. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hello, my name is Charles Riley, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club. Sierra Club San Diego has long been in support of the AIRE program expansion and implementation and appreciate the district's continued investment in this program, which has already delivered thousands of air purifiers to households impacted by the ongoing air pollution from the Tijuana River pollution crisis. This program is clearly making a difference. Participants have reported improved indoor air quality and relief from these harmful exposures. This program provides immediate relief and safeguards health in communities where support is desperately needed while advancing the established air quality, public health, and environmental justice goals of the district. Sierra Club stands ready to support any and all efforts to expand this program and encourage partnership, and we'd also like to offer to support by working with our partners at the state and federal government to expand funding for this program. Finally, community partnership and outreach is essential. Trusted local organizations should continue to play a central role in distributing equipment, assisting with applications, and ensuring that residents understand how to use and maintain these units effectively. In closing, the AIRE program is a strong example of responsive community-centered air quality intervention. Thank you all for your leadership, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael McCarthy. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
My name is Michael McCarthy. I want to express that I was skeptical of their purifier program, but the item does work. We've lived in that area since 1980 in the Nestor community. In the evenings, the smell is so strong you have to close your windows. The toxicity of it comes down the chimney, comes through the vents in the bathrooms. So this one unit that we were provided, placed between our two bedrooms, allows us to have somewhat of an entire evening of sleep. Where before using the unit, we would be awakened midnight to the smell, to the taste, to the wanting to vomit every evening. The embarrassment that we were unable to invite family and friends to our home for birthday parties, for gardening, for outdoor activity of any sort has been so limited by this crisis. The air purifier does work, and I'm impressed that we're looking at getting additional ones, and hopefully the word can get out that it can be used and it will work. The additional smaller units can then be placed into the bedrooms and the larger one left in our living area. The pollution tends to come in the evening. There was an address about how IB is different than Nestor, but it seems like the pressure drops, the wind changes, the atmosphere, we get the offshore, and that's what's changing the direction. I think the fact that we live next to Berry School, my children went there, that we're getting the brunt of it, you know, that it's spraying and hissing. You've all seen that at that location. We drove there today. Someone put some rocks and things in there to help mitigate some of it, but the purifier program should continue, and I hope that the word could get out to more families that are in need of it in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jasmine Vargas. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Jasmine Vargas, Environmental Health Coalition. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to address the board on this issue today. As the Environmental Health Coalition, we have been on the forefront of the air quality issues and the pollution crisis in the communities of the port side. And we have been a collaborator and participated very closely with APCD on the implementation of the previous PAIR program, which has been a great success in our community to respond to the ongoing issues and the problems that we face from the pollution from not just the port, but the freeways and the trucks and everything in between. We think it's an important program. And that's why we also support the AIRE program, and here to speak in support of continuing your efforts. We hear time and time and again that living in these conditions, especially as next to the Tijuana River Valley and the crisis that's there, is unbearable. And, you know, as EHC, we want to make sure we're dealing with the problem, but also addressing the current issues and the that people are facing every day and the health impacts that creates. I think we've shown our support time and time and again for the air purifiers and for the efforts that all in this board have made to address this problem. We were at the county with Paloma in our efforts to make sure that we get those resources. I think we have to continue to deal with this as the crisis that it is and putting everything we can into it. That means going to the health department and getting them to do their part, making sure that the water issues and the water treatment is being addressed, and ultimately getting to the root of the problem. But this AIRE program and using the resources that's coming from the county and using the resources at your disposal are going to go a long way. And I hope you support more of the same. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move to our virtual callers. Our first caller is Truth. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hi there, it's Truth. Let's see, air purifiers have little to do with clean air for IB. And what area does the AB 617 Community Air Protection Program cover? Which community was that again? I don't think you addressed that. We also had a conflict of interest on this board. The evil smile one brought a list of 8 demands to APCD in our first meeting, and then used our tax dollars from its former octopus, the corrupt county, to spend millions on those demands. Maybe if Manuela hadn't been busy fighting the federal government, she could have already secured a grant from them instead of wasting county tax dollars when they're already in an extreme deficit. Speaking of a lack of accountability, APCD also can't even commit to accountability. Why should anybody else? Because investigating questionable applications and putting language in to acknowledge truthfulness and penalties for fraud, for reselling, that is not nearly adequate enough, and you know it. There's going to be even cheaper purifiers on the markets, and I'm going to be able to get a new small one for probably $50. And the big ones are going to drop in price from their current average of $100 reselling in San Isidro. You know, it's good that the air purifiers happen, but it's interesting that one of the only remedies provided actually came under NORA 1.0. This program was not implemented correctly, but I've also seen some improvements as far as timelier deliveries. But I'm still at the point that I see this as a winding down time. And I think most people agree when you have winding down application numbers. Even if you start the program again with smaller, more affordable purifiers, other than from resellers and Manuel's political allies, including Wilkinson Stinton, I doubt you'll see the same kind of demand as the first phase, because most people just want real solutions. I heard it yesterday night's Santee Council meeting that an East County water treatment plant is going to start processing some of Mexico's sewage. Can't jump for joy because I want the sewage to stop, but it's definitely a positive to see coordination between agencies to search for fast, real solutions. Imagine that. That's what you need at this agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Sarah Davidson. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Oh, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Sarah Davidson. I manage the Clean Border Water Now program at Surfrider Foundation and help to lead the Tijuana River Coalition. I speak today on behalf of the more than 65 coalition member organizations and the more than 4,000 Surfrider members across San Diego County, including impacted areas of South County. Thank you to Supervisor Aguirre, Dr. Granados, and all board members for your persistent leadership on addressing air pollution resulting from Tijuana River pollution. We strongly support continuing and expanding the AIRE program. This program is essential to ensuring the well-being of residents, K-12 students, workers, and frontline communities until long-term solutions that address the severe air and water pollution are implemented and functioning. Impacted residents who are unable to access their closest beach safely, other outdoor areas, unable to work outside or play in schoolyards without exposure to toxic air, are also unable to find refuge in their own homes. These air purifiers can change that. Given the alarmingly high levels of hydrogen sulfide that have been measured consistently in South County, it is critical that each impacted home have access to at least 3 air purifiers to reduce exposure. We urge the board to not only continue and enhance this vital program moving forward, but also to ensure long-term funding and expand the scope of the program to help to protect all impacted communities. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony for this item.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor to any comments or questions. Member Aguirre. Oh, sorry. Member Aguirre, then followed by Member Gloria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to begin by stating that these last couple of weeks have been unbearable for the people who live in Nestor, Imperial Beach, Otay Mesa West, San Isidro, Tijuana River Valley, and even beyond. I recently participated in a community group, and there were people that were talking about the odors making it all the way to almost the 805. I know what was stated earlier about the fumes seeping into your home can concur with that. I've woken up the last 3 nights to the stench in my room, even though I have the air purifier cranking in my house. You can't escape it. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank our staff for being so responsive from the get-go, right? We were together at the sports park in Imperial Beach, distributing all the filters. One of our recipients even said it's a breath saver because for the reasons that have been stated, people with COPD, elderly. This week, Oneonta Elementary School in Imperial Beach had to call a rainy day to limit outdoor activities for children. So I don't want to rehash all of that, but I just want to reiterate on the behalf of the thousands of people who are living this nightmare every single day that I represent, that I'm grateful for this board's actions that happened earlier, to our staff that has bent over backwards to make this work. And I'm strongly encouraged to see the next steps. I'm not sure if we need to memorialize those in a motion. If that's the case, I'm happy to do that. But 3 areas that I want to make sure that we continue to observe, right, is the 3 air purifier units per household, the switch to the smaller, cheaper ones for bedrooms, as was stated. That's something I hear constantly, of people having to congregate in the living room and making those tough decisions, who gets to breathe clean air and who doesn't. The other one is the guardrails. I know that's important. We want to make sure that that the right people get them, and that you know, maybe those who don't need it as desperately don't, because we have to prioritize those that are highly impacted. And so if you think we don't need to make an official motion, those are the 3 areas that I already heard in the presentation. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate this board's continued support as we make progress to alleviate the source of the pollution itself. Grateful to my colleague at the county board. We already allocated $2.5 million to remove the hotspot, and we're advocating at the state level to secure additional funding for a permanent solution to the hotspot, as we've continued to work with our federal government in Mexico for more permanent solutions, which, as mentioned earlier, are years away. Thank you.
Member Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. And off the bat, thank our Vice Chair for her leadership on this issue, as well as the partnership of Chairwoman Tara Lawson-Remer for making this money available. I think it's an endorsement of APCD's incredible work to get these units out into the community. And I have to say, I've done this work for a long time, but I haven't heard public comment quite like what I heard today in terms of a relatively nascent program that is having an obvious positive impact in the community. I appreciate the kind comments of the residents, for particularly in South San Diego, about what this agency has been able to do in, again, a relatively short amount of time to improve your quality of life, and to do this action today, right, to continue to invest more, to do more. Along those lines, when reading the staff report here, I noted the comments about maintaining of a database, investigating potential fraudulent claims, penalties or lack of truthfulness. I appreciate that we're watching this taxpayer money like a hawk. We want to help the people who need helping. But it makes me wonder, as a board member, how much is this costing this organization? And recognizing that I don't think we're in a position where we're particularly flush. How are we able to manage this workload? Are we covering our costs for maintaining this? And is there anything the board ought to be aware of with regard to being able to continue this program that, again, is having such a positive impact? We want to make sure that we're there for people as these units come in, and as in our ability to distribute them to who need them most. So thank you, Member Gloria, for those questions. So we are currently expending the $1 million in funding that this board allocated, and covering administrative costs at this point. With that, as we accept new funding from additional sources, we'll be looking to ensure that we're able to recover our administrative costs. For purposes of the guardrails and the fraud prevention, what we are able to do is maintain a database of everywhere that one of the purifiers is shipped. Staff does review when we get applications that seem to be out of the ordinary for some reason, and we will be enhancing the application, as Mike mentioned, to ensure that folks are aware that if they resell these units, or that if there's fraud in the application, that they can be subject to penalties. And we have had requests for our information from law enforcement authorities, which we've provided. We are not able to, take any enforcement action. That's not our role, but certainly we maintain the information so that if there is any potential fraud, we would be able to provide the information that we have. Well, appreciate that, and no doubt that you are doing that work. I just, again, reflect upon what some of the comments of my colleagues from earlier in the meeting you have a full plate already. This is additional work that you've taken on and executed magnificently. But I also recognize that top performers are often given more work, and there is a limit at some point. And so I would like you to keep the board posted about your success or lack thereof with regard to cost recovery. Certainly encourage, and I imagine board members would be supportive of encouraging and directing staff to make sure that we're seeking that as we apply for and receive funding. But on the whole, it makes me proud to be a member of this board, to hear the comments of the public that we're making a positive difference in your lives. This agency, not that long ago, not because of the leadership of staff, may not have been this responsive, but under this leadership, I've seen a tremendous change, and I'm hearing it from people who live in our community for which we're responsible. That makes me very proud. And again, I appreciate our partners at the county for making this additional investment, and know that the city of San Diego is all in for making sure that we advocate on our state and federal partners for additional resources for the folks who are hurting. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Member Bush, then Granados, then Duncan, then Gomez.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and congratulations to our new Vice Chair. And I want to thank you for your work on this. And I did have some concerns. When we had this discussion, I believe it was December. These are for AB 617 funds, and this area is outside of that. So that was a concern. But given the level of them, and the other concern was whether we could secure these county funds, whether we'd be having these matching from other sources. So you were successful, staff was successful in doing that. So I appreciate you, Vice Chair, and Member Lawson Reamer for delivering on that from the county, because the $4 million, that is substantial, that's needed. And hopefully there's still more monies coming in and some of these other opportunities. I hope that we could still push the EPA. So whatever we can do to lobby and get some organizing for that. So, but I'm really pleased to see some contribution from other agencies moving forward. For in terms of what Member Gloria was talking about, the sustainability of funding. I would like us, this 1 million from the AB 617. I don't think that we should continue to do that. I think there needs to be, that needs to be it from the AB 617 funds. So I'm open to other sources, but AB 617 is, for those already identified communities. And as I mentioned earlier, our PAIR program that impacts the distribution of filters for diesel particulate matter in National City was delayed, as well as our air monitors. So, but I think this is the right track. We have some additional funding in for this program. So I think it's more balanced and on a sustainable path. So I do support this item and appreciate the work that's been done. Thank you.
Member Granados and then Member Duncan.
Thank you. I want to echo a lot of what was already said about APCD staff supporting this program, and also hearing from the community members about the difference that it's making. And I just really quickly wanted to read something that was sent to me from Dr. Ken Prather about the statistics of what's been going on in the past couple of months, which to my horror, I get these APCD warnings about the air quality in the community that's just been coming in nightly, which also thank you to the staff for stepping up during what we have seen as a reignition of a lot of the air quality crisis right now. And I'm just going to tell you a quick, clear story of the past 3 months alone in Nestor. 64 of 90 nights, about 71% recorded at least 1 hour where the 30 parts per billion standard was exceeded. The percentage of night hours in exceedance is increasing statistically significantly upwards, and the running mean average now sitting at 30.2%, which means nearly 1 in 3 nighttime hours exceeds the regulatory standard, and that multiple nights in February through April of 2026 saw exceedances across 80 to 100% of all nighttime hours. So we know that this is impacting people's health, from what they're breathing, but also their sleep, their ability to go to work and school and play. And so I just want to say thank you for looking for more funds for this program. And I know, as we've said before, this is not the fix, but it's an immediate acute issue that has to be addressed. And every air filter that a family gets is improving their health, at least somewhat, while we try to address the bigger issues. So I just wanted to put that out there from the science perspective, that this crisis is amped up lately, And every filter that we can get out there to every family that needs one is super important. So thank you to the board members for all your work on this, especially Member AIRE for her efforts. And I'm happy to be a part of this board to support these efforts, and to the staff who's making this happen. So thank you.
I'd like to note for the record that Member Fitzgerald has joined the meeting.
Member Duncan.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments as well. And in regard to, I think, what Mayor Gloria and others were mentioning, the funding is the huge issue. We were just talking about the difference between other pollution as well as the horrible hydrogen sulfide odors, gases down at the river. So I wanted to thank you for seeking other fundings, because I know you mentioned sources, but to me, those were new. I assume most of those grants, right? That's a new effort you've done. So I wanted to applaud the staff for working on that. I noticed, I believe you said there was a $750,000 application to NADBank for a grant. I'm curious, to the extent you're comfortable answering, has there been any response yet from NADBank? Because I do work with NADBank on other matters. So I was just curious, because I had not heard about this previously.
Just a preliminary response that they've received our application, and it sounds like they have a process, like a rolling process where they evaluate. And so we're still waiting to hear more information from them on that. But any advocacy you can help with there would be much appreciated.
Great. I appreciate you just trying to source out new sources of funds for it, because again, having the money to deal with the other charges of the agency are such a difficult situation of trying to decide between, which is the worst of the things we have to solve. So thank you for that. And I just encourage you to keep doing it. I think today the charge on the agenda is for us to receive the report, unless we're going to add something to it. So I don't have any motion to add anything, but I just appreciate everybody's work on it. Oh, and the one last thing, I'm sorry if I may. I cannot recall how I signed up for it, but I just wanted to mention, I will mention it's pretty disturbing, as was being mentioned by our other board member a minute ago, is I get the daily updates on the hydrogen sulfide. So can you tell people if they're interested in receiving those, how to sign up? Because what she was describing of all those nights, like every night or morning, I get an email that tells me and shows me. And I know you can go online and see the graphs too as well, but
Right.
I don't recall how I signed up, if other people want to know.
So you can sign up from our webpage, which lists a lot of our different, it's called Gov Delivery distribution lists, and we have one specific for the Tijuana River Valley. And so you can, members can sign up through that by either entering their email or their phone number. So we do email and text alerts for advisories. And recently, as was mentioned, we did, because of the higher levels that we've seen and the more frequency of exceedances that we've seen and the different timing of those exceedances that we've seen. Previously, I think a lot of the commenters mentioned that we were seeing them in the middle of the night. We were seeing them now in the evening hours when kids are trying to go play soccer, or in the morning hours when they're trying to go to school. So I want to shout out to our compliance inspectors who've stepped up, and they are now sending out advisories in those evening hours and morning hours so that folks can be aware if they're heading out to events. So that's why that's one reason you're seeing an increase in the frequency of those, is that we've expanded the timing of that program. And then the other reason is just we've seen a lot more exceedances. And so in the last month, we've recorded the highest level we've seen since we started monitoring. So it's definitely something that we're prioritizing as much as we can. We are going to be moving that system to an automated system, because we just don't have the manpower to keep that going. Each one of those advisories requires staff time and attention. So we're going to be moving to an automated system for that over the next several months.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No. So there's no motions to put forward for this. So we will move on to the next agenda item. I did want to discuss with this board real quickly. We have a couple of members that have hard stops at 4 p.m. We should still have quorum. Does anyone have a problem with me moving E5 up next? I hate putting E3 back, but I just wanted to make sure that no one has any objections to that. Okay, so we will be moving item E5 to the next agenda item, and that will be update on strategies to reduce indirect source emissions from warehouse and distribution centers in San Diego County. Madam Clerk, can you please provide public testimony? The public testimony announcement, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair Birkbeck Garcia. Per the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Thank you. Chief Mike Watt.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, board members. So today we're here to discuss, continue our discussion on strategies that can reduce emissions at indirect sources such as warehouses and distribution centers. This topic and the emission source overall is complex, dynamic, and unlike anything we've ever assessed at this agency. Our presentation today will walk through staff's perspectives and the recommendations we've developed based on the extensive analysis that staff has conducted on this topic to date. I'll turn it over to our very capable staff, Rural Development Supervisor Nick Cormier, and our lead engineer on this project, Randy Consolation, to walk us through the proposal.
All right, thanks, Mike. Today's presentation will first cover some background information and describe the findings and conclusions staff made in our recently released white paper and how we got to this point. We'll conclude by describing some alternative strategies, a cost-benefit analysis of the strategies evaluated, new information received since the white paper was released, and our proposed recommendation before you today. Next slide, please. First, a brief refresher on indirect sources and air pollution. Indirect sources are places like warehouses and distribution centers, locations that attract trucks and other mobile sources of air pollution. These emissions are primarily nitrogen oxides, which contribute to ground-level ozone formation, and fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, some of which originates from diesel emissions. Both pollutants are linked to asthma, heart and lung disease, and other health issues. San Diego County is a federal non-attainment area for ozone and a state non-attainment area for PM 2.5. Next slide, please. State Law AB 423, authored in 2019 by then Assemblymember Gloria, as well as local community emission reductions plans, directed us to evaluate whether a local indirect source rule, or an ISR, should be considered for warehouses, distribution centers, and ports. That process started several years ago and launched the extensive evaluation you'll hear today. Next slide, please. Since 2021, regional air districts, including South Coast Air Quality Management District, with its novel Rule 2305, have advanced efforts to regulate warehouse emissions. APCD built upon this foundation by developing an ISR framework, completing a comprehensive warehouse inventory, and outlining potential regulatory pathways. From 2023 to 2025, APCD engaged extensively with stakeholders through the Warehouse Working Group and obtained governing board direction, producing the ISR Framework Supplement document, and most recently the white paper that evaluates the feasibility of a warehouse ISR and presents alternative strategies. Next slide, please. Staff have conducted the most outreach and analysis we've ever done on a potential rulemaking, comprising over 100 meetings with stakeholders, numerous community meetings, and having over 90 organizations that ultimately participated. Opinions were understandably split, but the feedback provided important context for our analysis. Some groups expressed concerns about food safety, costs, and the effectiveness of an ISR. Others supported a rule to protect vulnerable communities and as an opportunity for the region to invest in cleaner technology. Next slide, please. The recently released white paper took all analysis and information into account to develop the following staff recommendations. First, staff recommended prioritizing alternative strategies in lieu of a warehouse ISR at this time. Second, staff recommended reassessing the need for an ISR in the future. Okay, no, no problem. Second, staff recommended reassessing the need for an ISR in the future once we have more statewide clarity and more data. And finally, staff recommended keeping a potential ISR as a further study measure in the next air quality plan. This approach keeps APCD proactive, flexible, and aligned with what we feel will get the most health benefits for the lowest cost. Next slide, please. To summarize with key takeaways, significant time and analysis have been spent on this topic, fully satisfying AB 423's requirements. Community and industry partners have been at the table for years of in-depth technical discussion on this topic at a level never before seen by APCD. In considering all the information at our disposal, staff believes prioritizing incentive strategies now and retaining a potential warehouse ISR for further evaluation in the next RACs positions the district in the best way possible moving forward. With these thoughts in mind, I'll now turn the presentation over to Randy to further summarize staff's findings. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Nick. San Diego's warehouse landscape is very different from other regions that have adopted warehouse rules. There are approximately 6,700 total warehouse buildings in San Diego County, with the vast majority being smaller than 100,000 square feet in size. South Coast AQMD has about 4,000 large warehouses over 100,000 square feet in size, which San Diego County has just over 240 in that size range. Staff used CoStar to procure the inventory of buildings, which is a commercial real estate analytics firm that South Coast used to develop their warehouse ISR, Rule 2305. As we'll discuss later, it's likely that not all these facilities are engaged in typical warehouse activity that would attract truck traffic that could be addressed through an ISR. Next slide, please. As warehouse sizes get smaller, there are more locations on the map, as depicted on the slide in red dots, where facilities between 50,000 and 100,000 square feet are located. These tend to be clustered around the larger warehousing locations. Next slide, please. When you look at the smallest warehouse buildings, we have thousands, but we believe the smaller the warehouse size gets, the likelihood of them not being used for goods movement increases. That distinction matters because an ISR only works if a facility is attracting trucks. Next slide, please. Staff believes a significant limitation of CoStar data is uncertainty on how the identified buildings are being utilized. For example, staff determined that only about 14% of warehouse labeled buildings in the Portside area, as identified by CoStar, appear to be engaged in goods movement activities. Such sites include churches, trade schools, art studios, and community centers, including Barrio Station Community Center and swimming pool, all of which may have little to no truck traffic. This case study suggests that CoStar may be overestimating the number of true goods movement warehouses countywide, meaning many identified buildings may not attract the types of truck activity an ISR is designed to address. All ISR emission reduction estimates to date have conservatively assumed that every building labeled as a warehouse is operating as one. However, this analysis indicates that real-world ISR benefits could be smaller than previously estimated. Next slide, please. We also conducted a robust review of what an ISR could deliver to our environmental justice communities region-wide and in Portside and the international border region. The numbers indicate that the estimated emission reductions we could achieve with an ISR would amount to less than 1% of the total pollution from all sources in those areas. This is due to the fact that approximately 80% of diesel particulate matter in both areas being generated by off-road equipment, not trucks, as demonstrated in the AB 617 SERPs. We also included what those estimated reductions would equate to in relation to how many trucks it would effectively remove from the road. These dynamics are similar when we look at EJ communities region-wide as well, as shown on the right-hand side of the screen, which included areas not even designated by Cal EnviroScreen. We also determined that roughly 71% of warehouses that are 50,000 square feet and larger are located outside under-resourced communities, particularly in areas that Cal EnviroScreen considers to be healthy areas, with an average pollution burden percentile score of 34%. That means most ISR-driven emission reductions would likely occur outside of these under-resourced communities. Next slide, please. Expanding our focus county-wide, staff determined that a warehouse ISR could reduce about 0.15% of region-wide NOx emissions and about 0.01% of region-wide PM 2.5 emissions. This small amount is due in part to an existing long-term trend of truck emissions decreasing, while at the same time emissions from ships, aircraft, and locomotives are increasing. A warehouse ISR, shown in the green and orange bars on these charts, would achieve limited emission reduction benefit in relation to other rule-related projects, both past and future, to help us achieve or maintain compliance with state and federal air quality standards to protect public health. We believe these emission reduction estimates are likely to be less in practice, based on recent results being seen in the South Coast region, which we'll discuss later. Next slide, please. In terms of potential health benefits, the estimated emission reductions from a potential ISR translate to up to 68 avoided health incidents region-wide, up to 5 in portside communities, and up to 19 near the border. The chart on the right also shows the anticipated health benefit contribution to the local economy in relation to some other past and potential future rule actions. A potential ISR is denoted by the green bar. Next slide, please. Pursuant to state law, air districts must evaluate the cost effectiveness of any rule, similar to how we consider the price per unit when buying groceries for a price per pound or price per gallon for gas. As cost effectiveness values increase, it becomes more expensive to achieve the same amount of emission reductions. Statewide, air districts aim for strategies with lower cost effectiveness to reduce economic impacts on the public and the broader economy. Next slide, please. With this in mind, the projected project costs of a warehouse ISR in San Diego are very high, as shown in the yellow bar, higher than the cost effectiveness thresholds typically used for rulemaking, incentive programs, and higher than several recent APCD rules that delivered larger emission benefits. This means that the cost to achieve emission reductions from an ISR are expected to be much higher than other rules or programs APCD has implemented. With updated data from South Coast Rule 2305, which would likely be used by APCD if a rulemaking locally is pursued, the cost effectiveness of a local ISR is likely even higher than originally calculated, due to the increased cost derived from South Coast most recent WARE report, as shown in the orange bar. Next slide, please. To summarize, San Diego has far fewer warehouses than South Coast, and as a result, we're expecting far less emission reductions from an ISR than originally anticipated, especially in comparison to other recent or future rulemakings. Our analysis determined that there is uncertainty whether identified warehouse locations are truly attracting truck activity or not. We determined that we expect most of the benefits from an ISR to be outside of under-resourced communities. And questions about the economics and high cost effectiveness of an ISR in San Diego are prevalent, with uncertainty about the impact it could have in a challenging financial time. I'll now turn the presentation back over to Nick.
Next slide, please. Thanks, Randy. It's important to reiterate that to avoid federal preemption concerns, an ISR must contain multiple compliance pathways and does not guarantee ZEV trucks in under-resourced communities. This nuance means that facilities can select from a variety of options, some of which don't have any emission reduction benefit, and those facilities could still be fully compliant with the rule. Implementation of South Coast Rule at this early stage, suggests that few facilities are selecting ZEV-related truck options and are instead opting for more technologically feasible and/or cheaper options to comply. Notably, South Coast does expect these numbers to increase in later implementation years. South Coast ISR rule is also achieving around 1.4 tons per day of NOx reductions, which equates to less than 0.5% of their overall NOx emission inventory. While this is a small figure, South Coast must, by law, explore every emission reduction opportunity available to them given their extreme non-attainment status. Staff acknowledges that results may vary in San Diego, and that if rulemaking is ultimately pursued, staff could look at adjusting a menu of compliance options accordingly to add more potential options to respond to stakeholder feedback. Next slide, please. Given factors related to costs and emission benefits from a potential ISR, staff recommends prioritizing incentive-based alternative strategies that we believe can deliver comparable diesel emission reductions. A zero-emission transport refrigeration unit, or TRU, replacement program, funded with about $3 million in state Prop 1B grant funding that we already have on hand, could achieve diesel PM reductions equivalent to an ISR and deliver real NOx reductions at a lower cost to implement. TRUs typically run 24/7 at warehouses, grocery stores, and other locations that require refrigerated cargo. It's been estimated by CARB that 1 hour of TRU operation is equivalent to a truck driving 60 miles per hour for the same time duration. A TRU program would also require scrapping an existing diesel TRU, whereas an ISR would not. Next slide, please. An incentive program for zero-emission trucks and charging infrastructure could also be a possible alternative. A multi-tiered program approach would expand on the Portside ZEV pilot project and encourage opportunities to support more widespread ZEV deployment and infrastructure specifically for warehouses and trucking companies. Achieving emission reductions equivalent to a warehouse ISR would require a significant number of truck replacements at a high cost, which would be beyond the district's typical annual funding capacity. However, while a truck replacement incentive program alone would unlikely match ISR level reductions in the short term, combining such a program with a TRU incentive program could produce equivalent benefits to an ISR. AB 617 incentive grants would be the primary funding source for this incentive program, which receives allocations from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, or GGRF, that is funded through cap and invest by polluters statewide and not taxpayers. Next slide, please. In terms of a cost-benefit analysis of strategies on the table, several themes emerge. A warehouse ISR in the first column has a long time frame to achieve emission reductions and the highest cost to industry, costing upwards of $57 million to industry over a 3-year period. It would also affect the most facilities and carry the most legal risk to pursue. In the second column, a TRU incentive program would likely be the shortest time frame to achieve emission reductions if successful, as well as the least costly to implement for APCD and achieve equivalent diesel PM 2.5 emission reductions to an ISR. This approach would cost approximately $3 million in grant funds we already have on hand, along with the cost share from industry to purchase the new equipment. The heavy-duty truck incentive program, as denoted in the third column, would be the costliest program to implement by itself, requiring up to $101 million of grant money we'd receive over time from CARB, and would likely take the longest time to achieve comparable emission reductions to an ISR. However, it would impact fewer facilities than an ISR, and it would still require a cost share from industry to purchase the new equipment. A hybrid approach, as denoted in the fourth column, could see APCD moving ahead with both a TRU program and a heavy-duty truck incentive program concurrently, with the goal of achieving equivalent emission reductions to an ISR, but in a more expedient and cost-effective manner. Anticipated costs would be less than an ISR, with a cost share component to industry to purchase the new equipment. Next slide, please. As noted previously, this is a very dynamic topic, and new information seemingly comes out every day. There has been new information and some important considerations that have become available since the release of the white paper in January. First, updated SANDAG truck activity data became available that reinforces that our emission reduction estimates for an ISR remain accurate. Second, South Coast's latest WARE report shows low reporting rates, limited required actions for smaller warehouses, and most emission benefits coming from the largest warehouses in their program, which we don't have a lot of in San Diego County. Notably, South Coast does anticipate their numbers improving in future years as more facilities report. Third, state-level activity suggests CARB might pursue broader statewide indirect source approaches in the future, which could supersede or even duplicate local actions. And finally, later this year, CARB is planning to launch a multi-year research proposal designed to fill critical data gaps in the warehouse space for ISRs, exactly the information APCD may need to make a sound rulemaking decision in the future. Next slide, please. The information we've detailed today helped to inform the conclusions included in the white paper we touched on earlier. Some of the primary factors that inform these conclusions include cost effectiveness. There is a high cost of rule implementation relative to estimated emission reduction potential. expected public health benefits being less than other rulemakings, limited emission reduction impact of an ISR in disadvantaged communities, alternative strategies offering a practical and cost-effective path to achieving comparable emission reductions to an ISR, and the ability to reassess the feasibility of a warehouse ISR in the future once statewide direction and new data become clear. This approach gives APCD the ability to act quickly where we can, keep pace with evolving state and federal developments, spend public resources where they will make the most difference, and allow us to explore the feasibility of alternative novel approaches to looking at an ISR, such as the potential phasing based on size and/or location as recently proposed by stakeholders. Next slide, please. Today's recommendation is to direct the Air Pollution Control Officer to prioritize incentive program approaches as outlined within the white paper to reduce pollution from warehouses and distribution centers, support progress towards state and federal air quality standards, and improve conditions in the communities most impacted by air pollution. Next slide, please. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkett Garcia. We've received 29 requests to speak on this item. There are 11 individuals here in the room, and we will begin with them first. And that also includes a group presentation, a public group presentation, and 17 members that are virtual. Our first speaker is Philip Gibbons. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Thank you, Chair and board members. I'm Phil Gibbons. I work at the Port of San Diego. I'm the Deputy Director of Climate Sustainability over there. I'd like to thank staff for their diligence over the past few years developing research on an ISR. And every time they conclude their research, they say very consistently that it's not the most effective way to reduce pollution in our region. But there is good news. There is a good model here in San Diego, and that includes targeted incentives, voluntary actions, and shared problem solving. For example, the community emission reduction plans for the portside and border communities are great efforts where community members, industry, and government agencies are partnering in a way that builds trust and meaningful progress. We have an MOU with APCD, the port does, to reduce emissions. While the regulatory environment at the federal and state level may be uncertain, there is momentum on pollution reduction here in San Diego. The air monitoring stations that have been placed in the portside community are showcasing diesel pollution is declining. So please take this into consideration when you deliberate on this issue today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Munger. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jack Munger representing the Industrial Environmental Association. So today's the day. The board gets to select a path for reducing emissions in San Diego. You're going to hear a lot of reasons why an ISR is not the best way to accomplish that. I'm just going to focus on 2 here today. Number 1, you've heard from staff, and that was an incredibly deep analysis over 2 years of an ISR. I want to congratulate staff on the work done on that. But you heard from them, this would be the most costly, as well as generate the least amount of emission reduction. So staff is predicting, think about this for a second, staff is predicting that the overall reduction of particulate matter would be less than 0.01%. Now, I'm a cancer survivor also. And if you tell me that you want to implement a program that's going to reduce my potential for cancer risk only by 0.01%, I would say that's not good enough. There's got to be something better. And I think many of those alternatives have been offered by staff here today. So for all those people who are begging you to help them reduce their risk to cancer and asthma, and for those of us who, as cancer survivors, don't want to wake up every day wondering what is going to happen in the future, if there will be that day when everything returns, I would like to ask you to not throw us a bone. We need a program that has meat on it. We need a program that has potential for success. We need a program like many of the alternatives that staff has shared with you today. I think and I would ask you to review those and move forward expeditiously on them as soon as you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sharon Burney Cloward. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair and board members. Again, my name is Sharon Cloward. I'm president of the San Diego Working Waterfront. Staff's recommendation not to proceed with an ISR in San Diego is not made lightly without careful analysis and consideration. Over a painstaking process spanning almost 3 years, APCD and the working group members reviewed the public data, performed multiple analysis, and their conclusions were the same. A San Diego-based ISR would be the most expensive and least effective regulation to date to reduce emissions from trucks for both staff to implement and for businesses to follow. As a best case scenario, the APCD estimated ISR would yield an overall reduction of less than 1% that we heard today for particulate matter in NOx, less than what even us industry members had looked at. Economic analysis from groups like Rumball show that the actual cost to businesses in LA are almost 10 times more per square foot of warehouses than estimated by the AQMD for little emissions benefit. Most warehouses in San Diego are outside disadvantaged communities, meaning whatever benefit comes from an ISR will be enjoyed by those outside the communities calling for environmental justice. Staff's recommendation to implement an incentive-based approach would allow for a fraction of the resources required by an ISR to achieve a similar, better emissions reduction through targeted outreach to businesses who actually operate in these disadvantaged communities. Those who argue of an ISR and say staff did not do an analysis correctly, or that an ISR for warehouses does not go far enough to share the same motivations of those who are opposed. We all want cleaner air in San Diego, but we must consider how to improve the quality of life for most people with the wisest and precious resources that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Craig Benedetto. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good afternoon, board members. Craig Benedetto here today representing NAIOP San Diego. I'd like to start by thanking Ms. Forbes and her team for all their work on this, specifically Mike, Nick, and Randy. Thank you for spending the time with us and with all the stakeholders on this issue. We're speaking today in support of the staff recommendation to prioritize an incentive-based program and not pursue an indirect source rule. This would maximize benefit for our region and in the environmental justice communities identified. Our members believe strongly in clean air and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but doing so in a manner that is both meaningful and cost-effective for the regulated community, the regulating agency, and the general public. As staff has concluded based on numerous exhaustive meetings with all stakeholders, extensive review of the details and facts about our region's development and transportation patterns, as well as available information on what's driving air quality impacts, an indirect source rule is not a practical or effective means of reducing GHG. In short, an ISR will only make small reductions in GHG and will not help the environmental justice communities that we're trying to support. It is for this reason that our coalition joined in support of the staff recommendation to focus on an incentive-based approach with a focused outreach to businesses operating in those communities of concern to maximize GHG reductions. In conclusion, we'd ask for your support of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melanie Cohen.
Good afternoon. I'm Melanie Cohn with Biocom, and I am here in support of staff's recommendation not to move forward with an indirect source rule. The life science industry depends on highly specialized infrastructure, such as labs, manufacturing facilities, and clinical production environments that are both capital intensive and highly regulated. Adding an indirect source rule at this time would introduce new layers of complexity, cost, and uncertainty for these projects, which already operate under strict environmental and permitting requirements, such as those overseen by the Air Pollution Control District. Choosing not to move forward with an ISR sends a positive signal that San Diego remains committed to fostering innovation while pursuing balanced, effective approaches to environmental stewardship. It allows companies to continue investing locally rather than looking to expand in regions with fewer regulatory hurdles. Importantly, the life science sector is already aligned with sustainability goals. Companies are actively reducing emissions, improving energy efficiency, and adapting cleaner technologies, not because they're mandated to do so, but because it is part of their long-term operational strategy. By supporting staff's recommendation, you are helping preserve San Diego's competitive edge in a globally important industry, delivering medical breakthroughs, protecting jobs, encouraging continued investment, and allowing thoughtful, data-driven approaches to air quality improvement moving forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miriam Mendoza.
Esteemed members of the board, my name is Miriam Mendoza, International and Policy Advisor for the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of our 2,000 members, the Chamber supports the staff recommendations before you today. Evidence presented by staff demonstrates that adoption of an indirect source rule would not deliver meaningful emission reductions, but would be increasingly costly, disrupt supply chains, and reduce regional competitiveness. The evidence demonstrated an incredibly small emission reduction that is not at all cost effective. As our region is home to the second busiest commercial land port of entry across the US-Mexico border, traffic patterns of trucks traveling across the region would not be meaningfully impacted by an ISR. Incentive-based approaches are already making progress in key areas where emissions are of concern, and these approaches can continue to drive reductions across our region. For these reasons, we respectfully urge the board to support staff recommendation and refrain from pursuing an ISR in San Diego County, which would be costly and ineffective for our region. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Valerie Hash. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Valerie Hash, and I am with Casa Familiar, a local nonprofit with more than 50 years of experience supporting the International Border region. Casa has been a longtime supporter and collaborator with the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District, the Environmental Health Coalition, and a member of the International Border CSC, all working towards advocacy, education, and policy change to clear the air in a highly impacted and disinvested region. CASA is in favor of and highly encourages the implementation of a warehouse ISR rule. The international border communities have an increasingly large number of warehouses and is highly impacted by diesel truck traffic that move goods to and from these warehouses. Casa Familiar encourages a warehouse and distribution center ISR rule so that we can start reducing pollution to meet the goals of the CERP. It is evident through research and reports such as the new Cal Enviro Screens 5.0 draft that our region is quickly getting worse when it comes to air pollution, moving more and more in the red. And the warehouse ISR would be a step in the right direction, moving the needle toward green. Impacted port and border communities are already facing a health crisis with bad air that is saturated in DPM, diesel particulate matter emissions, which increases cancer risk per CARB's own California Air Toxins Assessment. We need action now. We need to clean up the air now, and our health cannot wait to start a warehouse rulemaking process. An ISR is a proven method of improving air quality, public health, and in reducing climate pollution. We believe that incentives on their own are not enough. We need to start working on a warehouse ISR now, as it is critical to our community emissions reduction plans and critical to the health and well-being of our community in the greater San Diego region. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alicia Navarrete. Alicia Navarrete. Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker, Rita Clement. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good afternoon, board members of the Air Pollution Control District. My name is Rita Clement, and I live in Chula Vista. I'm a volunteer with San Diego 350 and the Sierra Club. I am here today to speak in opposition to the staff's recommendation on item number 5, the indirect source rule. I urge you to vote in favor of this strong warehouse indirect source rule. This is a critical step toward protecting public health in our communities. I speak not only as an advocate but as someone directly impacted. I have asthma and emphysema, and I am not alone. Many residents in National City and throughout South County suffer from respiratory illnesses linked to poor air quality and freight pollution. This rule will make a real meaningful difference in the health of our families and neighbors. This policy also supports San Diego's efforts to meet state and federal clean air standards. It builds on a proven model from the South Coast Air Quality Management District in the Los Angeles region, which is already helping transition heavy-duty trucks to zero-emission technologies. With the withdrawal of the Advanced Clean Fleets regulation, there is now a significant regulatory gap that is slowing progress towards zero-emission freight. That makes your leadership here even more important. The cost of inaction is simply too high, especially for our children who deserve clean air and a healthy future. I respectfully urge you to adopt the indirect source rule and take this necessary step to protect public health and advance environmental justice.
Please conclude your
in our
comments. Your time has
region.
ended.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diane Takborian.
Good afternoon, Diane Takborian. I'm co-founder of Environmental Health Coalition and also a member of the California Air Resources Board. I'm strongly in support of the actions that are recommended by EHC and other environmental organizations and community residents to approve the development of a San Diego ISR, recognizing that the staff of the APCD have said that they have capacity issues. We think that could be done in a phased approach, but whatever one works best, these impacted communities really need the ISR. I had the privilege of working with Mayor Gloria on AB 423, which initiated the ISR consideration because in 2019, there were no state rules regulating transition from heavy-duty diesel trucks to zero emission. In 2020 and 2023, CARB adopted strong state rules that would require this transition, and then came 2025. When these measures were pushed back and deleted essentially by the Trump administration. CARB is fighting against these illegal actions, but that's where we are today. And that's the deck of cards that you all need to deal with. That's why we need local action. During that same period, Portside and International Border Community came together under the 617 program, and they adopted community emission reduction plans. These plans rely on those state truck rules, which we do not have anymore. Without an ISR and without those state truck rules, these plans will fail. People will continue to be sick. People will continue to die. So in fact, we have undeniable evidence that the pollution burden has in fact gotten worse over the past 5 years. If you look at the Cal EnviroScreen 5.0 data. And I have to disagree. The border is clearly a disadvantaged community, and to say that it's not in the white paper is just wrong. They have the most warehouses and they have a high health burden. So we all need to recognize that that is a disadvantaged community that would benefit from this. And while I really appreciate staff's work, and I know it's been a lot, and I really appreciate the fact that you're bringing up other options for incentivizing reductions like the transportation refrigeration unit upgrades, those should be used in conjunction with an ISR. It's
You'll need
not
to
a
conclude your
separate
comments,
path.
please.
So I'll just say that rejecting ISR based on what we consider to be incomplete and faulty information is a disservice to the communities who need it the most. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maritza Garcia. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good afternoon. My name is Maritza Garcia. I'm a lifelong Logan Heights resident and a community member of the AB 617 Portside Steering Committee for the last 5.5 years. Living in Logan means you're surrounded by pollution day and night. The streets are filled with big rigs spewing DPM through the streets as they go to and from the many warehouses and distribution centers around our community. They add nauseous smells, noisy sounds, and immense danger to the residents who already have the highest number of respiratory and other health-related issues in the county. This is all due to the unjust practices that were allowed in the past, but we have a great opportunity to change that now. I appreciate the hard work APCD has put into addressing these issues and recognizing different ways to approach a solution. However, it would be a fatal mistake to disregard the development of an indirect source rule for these known polluters. Created in ISR is a strategy that is outlined in the SERP to achieve the goals we all worked really hard to identify. It has also been proven to be an effective method in other communities. We need to do all we can to make lasting improvements to how others operate in our community. Remember, this was a residential community that industry came into. We need to stop looking at this data as just numbers, but as actual human beings. It might be 68, it might be 19 a year, but those are lives that we do not have to lose by making these changes. Incentive programs, while helpful, do not always work because the connection to qualifying participants has been proven to be difficult to complete in the past. We often talk about this in our committee meetings. A phased approach that focuses on the most effective communities of the border and port side is crucial to save lives. It's so hard to be up here and just see these things as data when these are real human beings that we're talking about, y'all. I've lived here my whole life having to deal with this, and to just hear it be surmised to this data is so heartbreaking. The people that come and work here, I understand that you also have these pollutions that come, but you get to go home. We don't always get to do that. We have to live in this. We know that the federal government will not help us. We need your leadership to
You'll have
stand
to
against that
conclude your
injustice
comments.
and start the development of a warehouse and distribution center ISR. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We will now move to a group presentation. Charles Reilly, Jasmine Vargas, and Anthony Dang. You'll have 10 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Can I just let you know when next slide?
Yes.
Thank you.
You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. We're here today as a coalition of environmental and environmental justice organizations representing tens of thousands of community members who are impacted by deadly air pollution coming from the growing warehouse operations. We have been working on this indirect source rule for many years with the APCD staff, with our partners in the community, with industry representatives, and we are here to request that the governing board move forward with the rulemaking process for an indirect source rule. Thus, we are in opposition to the staff recommendation. Starting a rulemaking process is just the beginning to fight for clean air and lowering harmful pollutants affecting our region. Without a rulemaking process, we will never have a full understanding of what type of rule would work best for our region and what type of rule would bring the greatest benefits for us. How can we analyze the true costs of a rule and the public health benefits of a rule without knowing what the rule actually is? Starting a rulemaking process is the first step to allowing our communities, warehouse operators, and staff to work together to find an approach that works for our region, not just looking at the South Coast model, which, although is a great model, is not the best model for our region. We're here to offer a new proposal for how to implement an indirect source rule in response to the staff's cost-effective analysis. Next slide, please. We believe that a phased implementation approach will help alleviate the cost concerns that staff have raised, ensure APCD staff has a lower upfront cost to start the implementation. It will give much needed air pollution relief to our AB 617 communities, and all while allowing the district time and resources so that they can start to charge the permitting fees required for the indirect source rule to pay for itself. In 1970, the Federal Clean Air Act provided the authority for regulating indirect sources of air pollution. We've seen multiple states like New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and Colorado consider their own paths to an indirect source rule. The state of California has mandated each region to comply with additional requirements to lower air pollution and meet climate goals. While the 2009, 2016, and 2022 regional air quality strategies make note of indirect source measures, the district has yet to take action to develop an ISR. We believe that an ISR is critical to ending deadly warehouse operating pollution. It offers flexible designs and zero emission solutions to combat pollution from indirect sources of pollution. In 2019, Mayor Gloria passed Bill AB 423, which mandated our district to move forward with considering what an indirect source rule would do for our region. We are here today after that all has been done. We have considered what an indirect source rule would do. Now is the time to take the bold action to move forward and start the rulemaking process so we can end deadly harmful pollutants in our region. Next slide, please. This slide just shows some of the different indirect sources of pollution that we've talked about throughout this. We're here talking about the warehouse indirect source rule though. Next slide, please. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about the South Coast AQMD, which has been referenced many times. The South Coast AQMD rule, although it is a great rule, it offers a lot of it offers the WARE menu of options, including zero emission truck adoption, mitigation fees, charging infrastructure, and so much more. I also want to note that the South Coast model did try an incentive program for many years and it did not work, which brought us here to this model. Next slide, please. Also, can you give me a time check? I can't see it.
You're at 6 minutes and 39 seconds, and all three people have to speak.
Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide. I would just also like to state that the South Coast rule has worked to start the transition to zero emission trucks, and we've provided a Earth Justice review of the approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Can I get the next slide, please? Thanks for addressing some of the legal concerns and referring to the Earth Justice comments that should have been in your packet. But I want to reiterate today to the board that we have a chance to start a warehouse ISR today, and what the rule looks like, what it covers, whether or not it stands up to scrutiny is important to address all as we are developing this rule. I'm here today for asking for your leadership. It's important that you lead today because our communities are being abandoned by the federal government. As you heard, the Trump administration is actively trying to revoke California's ability to clean up our air, including, the clean fleet, the advanced clean truck rule. And I want to emphasize that the need to clean up our air is evident and is the APCD's main prerogative. It is also evident that some communities have higher impacts for pollution than others. National City, Logan Heights, Otay Mesa, shown in the graph, have about more child asthma emergency department visits in 2020 compared to the county. I want to make sure that we are all on the same page there. And we understand that the staff prefers to push this down the road for the next RACS project, but we don't have that time. Cancer and asthma don't wait, and neither can we. Next slide. So since the APCD has been studying the ISR, EHC has been there educating our members, collaborating with staff. And our position continues to be, we need a warehouse rule. This image is in the white paper, attachment C, and it shows you the CoStar data that was referred to earlier. I'm sorry, this is not the slide, it's the slide before that. Thank you. Yes, this was just shown, and I wanted to iterate that the clusters that were represented. I also want to make sure you all know that the CoStar data did not include the ports, warehouses, and I think that's an oversight that the staff has identified and wants to alleviate. But with that said, these clusters do show that that some of the communities that we are more talking about, the AB 617 communities, the port side, the border, which are the most impacted in terms of cancer risk, are also surrounded by the most warehouses. The other thing I wanted to make sure to highlight here is that the San Diego County AIRE district is severely out of attainment of the federal ozone standards as well as state PM10 and PM2.5. And ultimately, the next slide would be great. I wanted to make sure I showed you because the staff used CalEnviroscreen in their white paper analysis, I wanted to highlight here, make sure you understood how they used the 4.0 results, which are on the left. And that's fine because, those are the results that were available. But this year, and while the end of the white paper development, we did get CalEnviroscreen 5.0 that came out, and I wanted to show you the comparison, and you can see for yourself how the darker red or oranger colors are depicted on the left side, which shows that the problem is just getting worse. It's something our community already knows. Because, next slide, please. The indicators are many in the Cal Enviro screen. I also wanted to pull out the pollution burden specifically to show you that not only because of the socioeconomic factors that are included in the Cal Enviro screen overall analysis, these are the pollution like ozone, PM 2.5, PM 10, diesel particulate matter. And this graph comparing 4.0 with 5.0 also shows that the issue is getting worse. Next slide, please. So this 2 minutes. This is why we think that two things can be possible as you're implementing an warehouse ISR. Although at this moment, that's not what you need to be deciding. You just need to be deciding on whether or not to go forward with a warehouse ISR planning process. But if you were to, for example, prioritize AB 617 communities, maybe stagger the warehouse compliance of 100,000 square feet and 50,000 square feet, you will see a better cost effectiveness. And this graph shows where that is relative to the cost effectiveness analysis of the staff and highlighted in blue. Next slide. And all this to say, communities are already paying for the warehouse pollution here. The true costs are visible. We need your action. And voluntary incentive programs are not going to do it without pressure and regulation.
All right, next slide. I'm going to summarize and top line this for all of us. Essentially, if we are closing the door in an ISR today, we are closing that door based off of incomplete information. And so we really want to kick off this rulemaking process to really identify key questions and answer these questions, such as what would a phased approach actually look like, or a different approach that would be cost effective to really help these impacting communities. What are the most effective compliance options, and what exactly is our warehouse footprint, which we do not know. And so what we do know is that communities are impacted, experiencing health burdens unjustly, and that incentive programs do not work. There is little to no adoption in them. And what we do know is that APCD, if you refer to the Earth Justice legal letter, does have the legal authority to move forward with an approach like this. And so, next slide. We just really want to thank everyone as well, the staff and the board, for learning about this issue and doing a ton of research over many years and listening to so many different stakeholders in the room about this topic. And we really hope that we can use this momentum to really do some real meaningful change around this rule. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to virtual callers. Our first caller is Montserrat Hernandez. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pause you for just a minute. We do not have quorum at this point.
Okay.
We have to have 6 members physically in the room for quorum. Okay. Ms. Hernandez, you can continue.
Sí hay traducción, porque voy
Just a minute.
español.
We'll have our interpreter come. You'll have 4 minutes to address the board to allocate for interpretation. I think she heard you.
Okay. Buenas tardes, puede hablar, yo le voy a interpretar.
Ok, gracias. Mi nombre es Montserrat Hernández, soy residente de Logan Heights y parte del comité AB 617.
Okay, permítame. Yes, I'm Montserrat Hernandez. I live in Logan Heights and I'm part of the committee AB 17.
Hoy queremos pedirle a la mesa directiva de APCD que den su aprobación para que se empiece el proceso para la creación para una regla de fuentes indirectas de almacén.
Yes, we'd like to ask ABC the approval or to start the process for the, como dijo al último, let me ask what she said at the end.
Para una regla de fuentes indirectas de almacén.
For a new rule for warehousing.
No basta solamente con los incentivos y la reducción voluntaria de la contaminación.
It's not enough the incentives or other things that have been offered for contamination.
Nuestras comunidades portuarias tienen mucho tiempo con altos índices de mala calidad de aire.
Our port communities have very poor air.
Por eso se necesita más que normativas voluntarias.
That's why we need more rules, voluntary rules.
No, we don't need voluntary rules.
Repita, por favor.
Necesitamos más que reglas voluntarias.
More than voluntary rules.
Para una regla de fuentes indirectas de almacén, se debe priorizar las comunidades AB 617.
And for those rules, we have to prioritize the ABC rules.
No, comunidades.
Communities.
Y trabajar en cumplir los objetivos del SERP.
And work on working with the objectives of CERT.
Les pido tomen en cuenta nuestra petición y
I'm asking for
apoyen
you
esta
to
regla.
Take in consideration our petition.
Y apoyen esta regla para que realmente podamos ver un cambio en
And
nuestras
support this rule
comunidades.
so that we can see a change in our community.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margarita Moreno.
Sí, está aquí conmigo, se la paso.
Okay.
You have 4 minutes to address the board.
Okay, 4 minutos para abordar la mesa directiva.
Buenas tardes.
Good
Mi nombre es
afternoon.
Margarita Moreno.
My name is Margarita Moreno.
Soy residente de National City
I'm a resident of National City
y parte del comité AB 617.
and part of the committee ABC 17.
Me opongo a esperar que se haga una regulación de fuentes indirectas
I do oppose the indirect bridges.
Como residente me preocupa seguir esperando.
As a resident, I am worried about the wait time.
Yo tengo un hijo que tiene asma y posponer esto lo perjudicaría más en su salud.
I have a son that has asthma and waiting would jeopardize my son's health.
También trabajo en una escuela y
I
veo
also
cómo
work at a school.
Hay niños con enfermedades pulmonares como asma y alergias.
I do work at a school and I see kids that are ill with issues with allergies and ¿qué más? Alergias. Asthma.
El costo humano es muy grande si no se hace una regulación.
The human cost would be very big if no regulation is done or approved.
Necesitamos aire limpio en nuestras comunidades.
We need clean air in our communities.
Sé que la gente que no vive en nuestras comunidades afectadas no entiende lo que vivimos.
I know that people that don't live in our affected areas don't understand what's going on.
Les pido a los miembros de esta mesa directiva
Therefore, I ask the members of this committee
su apoyo para empezar una regla de fuentes indirectas
to start with the new direct sources.
Para almacenes y centros de distribución.
Or warehouses and distribution centers.
Por favor, que sea lo más pronto posible.
Please, as soon as possible.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alicia Sanchez. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Tiene 2 minutos para abordar la mesa. 4.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alicia
Good
Sánchez.
afternoon. I'm Alicia Sanchez,
Soy residente de National City,
resident of National City,
promotora de EHC,
a promoter of AA,
también parte del comité ABC
and also part of the committee. CHD?
Sí.
EF.
Y también parte del comité ABC 17.
And also part of the committee ABC 17.
Agradezco a APCD por toda su ayuda.
And I do thank the committee for all your assistance or help
para mejorar la calidad de aire en mi comunidad.
to improve the air quality in my community.
Pero no estoy de acuerdo en esperar más tiempo
But I'm not in agreement to wait any longer
para iniciar un proceso de regularización
to start the regulation
de reglas de fuente indirecta de almacén.
for rules of regulations.
En
For
mi
the
comunidad
warehouses.
tenemos almacenes donde llegan camiones pesados
In our community, we have warehouses where we have heavy trucks,
y nos afectan ya que no están electrificados.
and it affects us since it's not electrified.
Y en mi familia tengo a mi esposo con cáncer
And in my family, my husband has cancer,
y esto afecta para su salud.
and that affects his health.
Necesitamos que empiecen con esta regla para los almacenes ahora.
Need this new rule for warehouses to start now.
Si avanzamos ahora, tendríamos más información de los almacenes
If we advance now, we would have more information with the warehouses
para comprender el impacto que tiene
and to
en las
understand the
comunidades
impact that it's causing the communities.
portuarias, ya que tendrían que informar de sus estrategias para disminuir la
They
contaminación.
would let us know the strategies to reduce the contamination.
Así que por favor le pedimos a la mesa directiva de APCD
So we please ask the ABCD board
que apruebe de empezar con esta norma ahora.
to start this new regulation now.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carmen Arroyo. You'll have 4 minutes to address the board.
Tiene 4 minutos para abordar la mesa.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Carmen Arroyo.
Good afternoon, I'm Carmen Arroyo.
Recientemente me uní al comité AB 617 y también soy residente de National City.
Yes, I recently joined the ABC 17 committee, and I'm also a resident of National City.
Si se regularizaran los almacenes y tuviéramos más camiones de cero emisiones,
If we
también
were to have
bajarían,
less warehouses and zero emissions,
también bajarían las enfermedades respiratorias,
that would reduce the respiratory illnesses,
el cáncer, el
cancer, asthma,
y enfermedades del corazón.
and heart issues, illnesses.
En mi comunidad, en lo personal, yo tengo a mi esposo que padece del corazón
In
y
my
por ese
personal life,
motivo
my husband has heart issues,
y a causa de la contaminación,
and due to contamination,
mi esposo no ha estado estable y muy seguido tiene citas al cardiólogo.
my husband has not been stable, and he has many appointments with the cardiologist.
En nombre de mi familia y de mi comunidad,
In the name of my family and my community,
pido a su apoyo a la mesa directiva de APCD
I ask the committee, ABC, for your support
para desarrollar una regla de fuentes indirectas
to have a new rule, indirect rule
de almacenes en este momento.
for warehouses. I'm asking for this to start now at this moment.
No podemos esperar más.
We can't wait any longer.
Gracias por escuchar mi petición.
Thank you for listening to my petition.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carmen Gaxiola.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Carmen Gagiola. Vivo
Good
en
afternoon.
National City
Good afternoon. I'm Carmen Graciola, and I live in National City.
y soy parte del comité AB 617.
And I'm part of the committee, ABC 17.
Esta tarde venimos a pedirle a la mesa directiva
And this afternoon, we're asking the committee,
de ABCD
the
que
ABC,
nos apoyen
to support
para
us
para que aprueben la regla de fuentes indirectas
to
de
approve
almacén.
the board of rules.
Porque ya tenemos demasiada contaminación en mi
There's-
comunidad
Too much pollution in my community.
y yo como parte del comité AB 617 Estoy luchando para disminuir los impactos de la mala calidad del aire
And me, as part of the committee, ABC 617, I'm working with them to try to reduce the pollution
en comunidades como National City y Barrio Logan.
in communities like National City and Barrio Logan.
Y esta regla de fuentes indirectas ayudaría mucho a lograr ese objetivo.
And this new rule would help with the objective.
Por favor, les pido a la mesa directiva que nos apoyen.
And I
Gracias.
do ask the committee to please support us with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christian Tapia Delgado. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
2 minutos para abordar la mesa.
I don't believe we have any additional public testimony that requires interpretation. Christian Tapia Delgado. We'll come back to you. Next, we have Aram Zadeh. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Aram Zadeh.
My name is Aram Zadeh, and I'm speaking on behalf of Coastal Environmental Rights Foundation, or CERF. CERF appreciates APCD staff and the work they perform, but it opposes the staff recommendation to go forward without starting the rulemaking process for the warehouse indirect source rule. The affected communities have waited long enough, and CERF encourages APCD to adopt an indirect source rule. We need rules for warehouses to stop them from polluting in these affected communities. Diesel pollution causes cancer and contributes to high rates of hospitalization and emergency room visits by exacerbating heart and lung disease. Diesel pollution comes from warehouses, distribution centers, and the diesel trucks that service these locations. Too many residents of those neighborhoods suffer because of trucks moving in and out of warehouses. That's why an indirect source rule for the diesel pollution from warehouses would prevent dozens of pollution-related health incidences every year, potentially saving $1 million or more in healthcare costs annually. The rule would reduce asthma, stroke, heart attacks, infant mortality, and other conditions that affect the most vulnerable. The human cost of not making a rule is much higher than the cost of going forward with a warehouse indirect source rule. Going forward with a warehouse indirect source rule will help everybody understand community impacts much better because the warehouses will need to report their pollution. For all of these reasons, CERF supports an indirect source rule for our warehouses. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Regina Su. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Regina Su.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I had some trouble unmuting. Good afternoon, Chair Birkbeck Garcia and members of the board, and thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Regina Su, and I'm an attorney with Earth Justice. We oppose the proposed approach of focusing on alternative strategies to reduce emissions from warehouses and want to echo other commenters' requests that the APCD start an indirect source rulemaking process. We've submitted a letter regarding some of the misleading conclusions in the white paper that are being used to justify this recommendation, such as the premature assessment of a high cost effectiveness value. So far, only 2 options have been studied: an ISR covering warehouses greater than 50,000 square feet or greater than 100,000 square feet. The groups that presented offered a proposal that takes into consideration the administrative burden needed to implement a rule like South Coast and asked that the APCD prioritize portside and border communities first, limiting the number of facilities required to comply in initial stages. First, San Diego APCD would not be the first air district to use this indirect source authority, and the law does not dictate how air districts should regulate indirect sources. The ISRs that are in place in California vary in design, but one important feature is that the more comprehensive ISRs are extremely flexible For the San Joaquin Valley and South Coast ISRs, both which have been upheld in federal court, there are many different compliance options, and facilities can choose based on what makes the most economic sense to them. And the South Coast rule phased in implementation, requiring facilities to comply in 3 stages, and also phased in stringency for those facilities. As you heard from others, the reliance on state action is simply not enough in this current environment. The key mobile source regulations offered as a solution are no longer in place, and a potential statewide indirect source rule has not been identified. APCD can take action now and move forward with an ISR and incentive programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Ross. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Okay, she's no longer on the line. We'll move on to Naranyan Gopinathan. They're no longer on the line as well. We'll move on to Abigail Sylvester. Abigail Sylvester, no longer on the line. We'll move on to Alejandra Miel Iteran. She's coming off of mute.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alejandra Meriteran, the Executive Director of the Otra Mesa Chamber of Commerce. I will be very brief. First of all, thank you all for taking care of our aid basin, and thank you to the staff.
Please mute your live stream.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. You can continue.
Can I move forward?
Yes, please continue.
Oh, my apologies. I'm here to support staff's decision, including the incentives programs mentioned earlier in the presentation, and to suggest a program that will truly make an impact in reducing pollution. A mandatory appointment system at the Otra Mesa cargo facility will eliminate the idling of 3,000 trucks per day. Think fast at Disneyland, and trucks will be showing up when it's their turn to cross. Let me clarify. These trucks queue up on the Mexican side of the border every day. But as you well know, our air basin has no borders. Now, I realize that you have no authority in telling Customs and Border Protection or Mexican Customs how to handle their operations. But as a governing agency and through your other leadership roles in different groups and agencies, you can make this project a priority. While you do have jurisdiction for implementing ISR programs such as the WARE program in the Inland Empire, it's not working. It doesn't accomplish what we want and what you want, better air quality. But it does cost a lot of money and will negatively impact businesses in our region. Like Nick Cormier stated, our region is very unique. We urge you to work with us to advance on unique programs for our region. An appointment system at the Otra Mesa Cargo Port that will—
Thank you. Your time has concluded.
While supporting economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sarah Wiltfong. You have 2 minutes to address the board. She's coming off of mute. Sarah Wiltfong. We'll move on to the next speaker, Stephanie Benvenuto. Stephanie Benvenuto. She's no longer on. Caitlin Arduino? We'll move on to a couple that we skipped that weren't on the line. Abigail Sylvester. Okay, we'll move back to Sarah Wiltfong.
Hello. Sorry.
Hi, who's speaking?
Hi. Sorry. I was trying to figure out the unmute. I apologize. But good afternoon. My name's Abigail Sylvester, and I'm speaking on behalf of the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club. And I'm calling in to urge the governing board to vote in support of a warehouse indirect source rule. The implementation of this rule will target a major and currently unregulated source of pollution that's going to improve air quality and protect the health of San Diego residents. The warehouse indirect source rule builds on a proven model already implemented by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, which is actively working to transition major indirect sources of pollution like heavy-duty trucks to zero emissions. Delaying the adoption of a similar policy in favor of alternative strategies and in the name of cost efficiency diminishes the urgency of this issue. Emissions from indirect sources, including nitrogen oxides, fine particulate matter, and ozone precursors, are well-established contributors to serious respiratory and pulmonary diseases. These health impacts are not hypothetical, nor are they distant concerns. We cannot afford to wait for alternative strategies to fall short before we move forward with a framework that has proven effective. The health of San Diego residents should be prioritized, especially when they're already fighting through impacts from other sources of air pollution. The hydrogen sulfide spikes that exceeded federal levels in South County this past weekend is just one example. By supporting the implementation of the indirect source rule, you are showing that you are willing to take urgent and productive steps in the protection of residents' health, particularly those in the AB 617 communities in pursuit of cleaner air. The Sierra Club believes that everyone deserves clean air 365 days a year, and we will not stop advocating until all residents of this region have access to that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll try Sarah Wiltfong again. You can come off of mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Wiltfong, and I'm calling on behalf of the Supply Chain Federation. We represent ports, warehouses, transportation, retail, labor, and other key parts of the supply chain. And I'm calling to support staff's recommendation on item E5, to not move forward with an indirect source rule and to consider alternative approaches. We appreciate the staff's thoughtful and data-driven approach in evaluating whether an ISR would deliver meaningful emission reductions in the San Diego region. Staff's white paper notes findings from our analysis of the South Coast AQMD's WARE program by Ramble, which provides important real-world insights into how these policies perform in practice. First, the study showed that emission reductions are largely driven by existing statewide regulations and not facility-based ISRs. At the same time, costs can be significant and underestimated. In the case of the WARE program, as much as 9 times higher than projected. Second, warehouses don't control the trucks that visit their facilities. That misalignment limits effectiveness and turns compliance into a cost burden rather than a true emission reduction strategy. And finally, a critical issue is SIP credit. The EPA, under the Biden administration, found that the South Coast ISR lacks sufficient basis to be credited with specific emission reductions, and the rule did not generate credible reductions for attainment planning, raising serious concerns about whether an approach in San Diego would do the same. Also, we have followed every state considering an ISR, from New York to New Jersey, Colorado, and Illinois. So far, all have rejected ISRs outright or pushed it off for further studies, expressing similar concerns to the above. For these reasons and many more, we support staff's recommendations to find alternative proven and cost-effective approaches and to not move forward with an ISR. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephanie Benvenuto. You have 2 minutes to address the board. You can come off of mute. Okay, you're no longer on the line. We'll try one more time, Christian Tapia Delgado. You can come off of mute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, APCD Governing Board. My name is Christian Tapia Delgado. I'm a climate campaigner with Pacific Environment. commenting in support of the APCD moving forward with the rulemaking process for a warehouse ISR. Pacific Environment is an organization dedicated to maritime shipping decarbonization. We strongly support initiatives like the proposed warehouse ISR as a critical step towards cleaning up and creating a more sustainable freight system. I live in a portside community myself, and every day we breathe the cost of goods movement, diesel from trucks, ships, and locomotives moving through our neighborhoods. And while the system powers our economy, it is our communities that pay the price with our health. We don't have to accept this trade-off. The warehouse ISR is a clear, actionable solution that can drive investments in zero-emission technologies, modernize operation, and reduce harmful emissions at scale. Similar concepts are already emerging across the U.S. and abroad in urban freight zones. I recently attended a SANDAG meeting where regional leaders shared progress on electric truck hubs, last-mile strategies, and freight planning. It's clear that this transition to zero emissions is already underway, but it will only succeed with strong local leadership like yours, especially as federal direction remains uncertain. For too long, frontline communities have carried a disproportionate burden, higher rates of asthma, lung disease, and other health impacts tied directly to freight activity. These are not abstract outcomes. They affect families, children, and the current and future workforce of our region. Adopting a warehouse ISR will clean up the air, move San Diego closer to attainment, create family-sustaining jobs, and ensure that communities can breathe safely in their own homes. So again, we urge the board to move forward with the warehouse ISR rulemaking process that aligns with the community emissions reduction plan and centers the voices and needs of AB 617 communities who have waited far too long for meaningful action. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Caitlin Arduino. Caitlin Arduino. You can come off of mute. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Arduino with Murphy Development Company. We have been developing industrial real estate in San Diego for over 40 years. I'm here today in support of staff's recommendation to not pursue an indirect source rule. We all share the same goal, improving air quality, and I do sympathize with all those who have family and loved ones that are suffering, but how do we do that most effectively? Based on both the district's analysis and what we've seen in other parts of Southern California, ISRs simply do not deliver meaningful emission reductions relative to their cost. Even staff has noted that this would be one of the least effective and most expensive approaches available. At the same time, the costs are real. An ISR would increase costs across the supply chain, impacting businesses, consumers, and working families at a time when affordability is already a major concern. San Diego is a unique region. As a border economy, a significant portion of truck traffic is simply passing through. An ISR does not meaningfully address the dynamic, which further limits its effectiveness here. From our perspective, we've also been actively working towards solutions, whether it's a more efficient building design, better site planning, or supporting tenants that are modernizing their operations. We're committed to being part of the solution. That's why we believe the staff recommendation is the right path forward, focusing on incentives, collaboration, and approaches that are already making progress and can deliver measurable results. In short, ISRs do not work in a meaningful way, and they come at a high cost. We respectfully urge the board to support the staff recommendation and not pursue this rule. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes that concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looking at the time, it is after 5 p.m. now. I'm sure that my colleagues and I have a lot that we'd like to discuss, and there were a lot of comments that we need to think over. I'd like to make a motion right now to take action and to continue this discussion and vote at our next regular meeting, and take no action now, sorry, and continue the discussion and vote at our next regular meeting.
I second that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, make a comment, Chair.
Absolutely.
What do we have left on our agenda tonight?
We have,
I see Emily Allen was here from the IBWC, the operations
yes,
manager.
we do. We have them to talk. That's why I wanted to move on.
if that's what you feel is best, that almost seems better to me, that maybe we just finish this item and release her so she could come at the next meeting. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but.
I wanted to be respectful of their time since they've been here for 3 hours.
This is an important issue. We can also.
I guess on the other hand, is what I'm trying to say is if they would rather leave now, that might be better for them. But so that's what I was having the same thought you were. We were just looking at it from a different perspective.
Okay. Are you okay with staying and talking? What's going to be easier? I mean, you guys have been here for 3 hours, over 3 hours now. I mean, you're here already.
Summarize my
Okay, we need to, sorry. Yeah, we have to be out by 5:30. So why don't we take a vote on my motion and then, member, Vice Chair Aguirre seconded it, just so you mind the vote, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell? Member Duncan?
Aye.
Member Fitzgerald? You're on mute. We'll come back. Member Gloria?
Sure.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval? Member Lawson Reamer? Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Chair Burkbeck Garcia?
Yes.
With members Stigler Granados, Lawson Reamer, and Campbell.
No, Fitzgerald.
Oh, Fitzgerald. Oh, sorry. Member Fitzgerald, your vote?
To continue, no.
Thank you. With 1 no vote from member Fitzgerald and with members Campbell, Stigler Granados, and Lawson Reamer absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
I'm here. I said yes.
Yes, yes, I have you down as saying yes.
Okay, let's go on. Let's go on to E3, South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plan and Expansion. Madam Clerk, could you please provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Burkbeck Garcia. Per the governing board rules of procedure, public testimony slips are no longer accepted for this item. And I would note for the record that we have received 1 request to speak on this item. If you'd like to take that speaker, we can do that now.
Before the presentation?
Or we'll do it after the summary.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome Dr. Gilbert Anaya to our meeting. He is the Division Chief of the Environmental Management Division of the International Boundary and Water Commission. He's been exceedingly patient this afternoon, so we really appreciate him. He has provided us with a presentation. I think he's going to give some summary remarks and we can circulate the presentation to the board members to ensure they have it. We appreciate your time and especially find that your remarks are timely given some of the impacts that we discussed earlier that have been seen over the last month.
Right.
So thank you again for being here with us.
No. I learned quite a lot in these last 3 hours. Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. My name is Gilbert Anaya. And I'll just briefly summarize the presentation. Even though you don't see the results right away, we have been working over these last few years since 2024 on the rehabilitation and expansion of our international plant, as well as working with our partners. Hector Aguirre from the local office of EPA was here with me. We're working on a comprehensive solution that we identified in our environmental statement, as well as the commitment under EPA Statement of Intent with the Ministry of Environment and Resources from Mexico, and under our Minute 328 that that committed both governments to implementing those projects. So what we've been doing to date, the international plant, we've invested millions of dollars to rehabilitate broken pumps, structures that needed rehabilitation. Are most of the infrastructure at the front of the plant, which is called the influence station, and the primary sedimentation tanks have gone. We're still doing it, but we've invested a lot on rehabilitation to bring the plant up to permit, which since November of 24, we've been compliant with our NPDES permit. We also have permits through APCD for odor control and for the main facility as well. On the expansion side, we are working on the design of the expansion. We're at the 90% level. That will be sent to us later this month. We will go from 90 to 100% by October of this year. So during that time, we will be negotiating cost at schedule so that we can proceed and essentially set the schedule and the costs for the final project. During that time as well, as part of the contract method that we use called Progressive Design Build, we will be starting early work packages, which is construction. So those constructions, you will see a lot of earthwork starting in May of this year. So in about a month, there'll be a lot of activity at the plant as we start digging up the earth for the main structures of the expansion. So that's going to be starting soon as we continue to rehabilitate the current plant. We also invested a lot of effort recently with respect to, I don't know if you've heard, junction box number 1, which is the key. All of the wastewater that comes into the plant goes through junction box 1, and it was severely deteriorated and it would not control flow. That is completed, and we started to treat 35 MGD on Monday. So you'll see that in our reports where we were last year back in September, where we were treating 35 MGD and the flows in the river were going down because of the operation of PBCLA, giving them that extra capacity so that they can take water out of the river, and we take more wastewater into the plant. So we are doing that transition right now. PBCLA has started as well. They're ramping up. There was an issue yesterday, but they've resolved it because of sediment at PB1. So you should be seeing the flow in the river dropping. And as we saw last year, H2S will follow after that. So we will continue working on that, and we will be reporting on it. We will be happy to come back and give updates. We're also going to be holding our own public forum so that we can have also more discussion, and the community can know where we're at as part of these various stages. Now with Mexico, the biggest update for those projects is the rest of the projects aside from the international plant. In 2026, we have implemented with EPA and our partners in Mexico. You will see a number of projects that are going to be starting this month and continue through the rest of the year. Those are the ones that need to get done so that we will maximize Mexico's ability to consistently keep the river dry during the dry season. Those are the projects that will separate the sewage from the river water. We will treat it, and there will be less flow in the river so that their infrastructure can handle the volume of flow consistently and not have to worry about being at a certain level of flow in the river. So that is ongoing. We have it on our website. We have a portal where you'll see the projects in Mexico. We started with all of the 16 projects in the red. That we're down to only 4 projects that are in red that will be starting in 27. The rest of the projects either were completed, the 5, and the ones for this year are in yellow because they have been funded and they will be starting very soon. So that is our commitment with EPA and with our partners in Mexico. I think and I'm not predicting, but this year going into the 27, you will see differences, and hopefully will help you address that H2S issue in the river. I'll stop there.
Thank you again.
I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We have one public speaker, Truth. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hey there,
Truth?
Truth still here. I am so glad. There was a presentation to speak to. Gilbert at IBWC since 1999, government cog for 36 years. I thank you for your patience for the very failed meeting management today, because for the record, I've been on the phone for over 3 hours and 20 minutes. So, hey, we're all in this together, right? Let me use that old stupid saying. And I also noticed a pattern in this agenda. It's all like Manuela political theater show where nothing ever gets solved. We just keep talking about it forever. While career politicians and their evil fake smiles continue to rake in millions and millions for their campaigns, while people have literally been dying a slow, toxic death. The IBWC has little to do with APCD. If anything, they've been part of the problem. But hey, now that the federal government allegedly wants this 90-plus year-long issue solved, well, there must be plenty of money this time to get things fixed and expanded, right? Expanded. It's never limited, or we have a cap. It's always expansion, because you continue to give the polluter a free pass. That's what I've seen my entire life. I've heard at this meeting. And even within the last agenda item, when I heard the ignoring of pollution from commercial trucks and pollution from an incentivized development in Tijuana, because I heard flow in the river dropping. Is IBWC going to stop the flow? No, right? Is anyone ever going to stop the flow? Because I also heard their infrastructure can handle their flow. We're going to make sure they can handle their flow. When does it stop? When does the flow of our tax dollars stop? Stop the pollution. When does that ever happen? Because when someone has proven they don't care, like some in this room, I'm a fan of hammers, not handshakes. The friendliness, the happiness, that goes right out the window. I want solutions. I don't want to talk about the same thing and have, I've had this sickness. I've had friends that still get sick. They'll wake up with watery eyes. I'm tired of it. And it's also time to start looking at board priorities and respectful planning of these meetings. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Are there any comments from or questions from the board? Member Duncan?
Thank you. Just briefly, I know when Minute 333 was signed with Mexico in December and with the United States, respective IBWCs, that there were 3 things kind of in the start of the agreement that talked about the potential outfall pipe at San Antonio de los Buenos, as well as potential doubling or expanding of their plant down there as well. And then the third one being a more comprehensive mapping, I'm using the wrong language, please correct me, of the overall Tijuana sewage infrastructure. And I know some of those, I believe, had 90 or 120 day response time. So I'm curious if you have any update on your negotiations or discussions with Mexico on those 3 critical issues.
Sure. Yes. So we started when the minute was signed in mid-December. There was a lull. We didn't get started until January, but we have been meeting. There is a draft document for the evaluation of an ocean outfall at Punta Bandera. So that document will be finalized within the week. It will be exchanged between both sections of the IBWC, and the recommendations will go to the commissioners as a next step. We also are working on another scope of work. We're calling it the mass balance, which is the evaluation of the flows in Mexico. So that scope of work has been reviewed and sent back to Mexico. Once that gets completed, that will also be an evaluation to ensure that not only the current flows, but the future flows are identified so that we can, that can be used as part of the planning process. Another study, all of these, we are also evaluating the expansion of SAB. We are exchanging water quality data with Mexico, so that's also ongoing. So we'll have data on our website that includes data from Mexico. And later on this year, we will also be working with them on a new master plan for Tijuana. So all of those studies will feed into the master plan so that we have an updated all of the work that have been completed, and then those that are still need to be done in Tijuana. So there are quite a number of items in that minute that we will be continuing to work on. We were behind on those that had that 3-month deadline, but we will have them done at least the first 3 by next week.
Thank you for the update. I have some other comments but I'll save them for general comments at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Anaya, for staying and I know that you probably traveled as well. So I really appreciate you being here and giving us the update. Just a couple questions, as you mentioned, the expansion of San Antonio de los Buenos. Will that capture the river that's being diverted by PBCLA before it enters the ocean in the new expansion? Because right now it does not, correct?
That's correct. The flows that are going untreated, those flows will be treated out at our international plant. So that the plan is for the international plant to treat the wastewater, and PBCLA, those flows that go to PP1 will be river flows that go to the coast. The question, what is being discussed is, do we need to still expand SAB just to give more capacity in that area? So we are going to be having more discussions with Mexico about that. We're kind of we want to see how we do, because there's currently about 35 MGD in as far as wastewater. So there'll be some capacity at the international plant to even treat not only the 35, but also additional river flow. So there'll be less flow that goes to the coast. We would rather treat it at our plant instead of pumping it. That's just continuous pumping uphill. It's energy intensive, and you have to have your pumps and everything working all the time. And once it breaks, you know right away, you see those flows in our canyons. And so our canyons are cleaned, and we do have ongoing projects for goat and Hollister pump stations. So those will be rehabbed in the near future. They're currently underway as we continue also with the main plant elements. I forgot to mention that yesterday we met with the regional board, and they approved our amended permit so that we could continue to operate under interim effluent limits and continue to treat that 35 MGD. That was an important step as we continue moving towards the 50 MGD goal.
Very grateful to our regulatory agency, which is the Water Board, for their flexibility in working with you to make these, IBWC, to make some of these projects a reality. Second question has to do with the status of the commitment of Mexico to reduce the flows that are going into the river. This is separate from PBCLA, which the concern is, like you said, when that breaks down, we still continue to have those flows come through the river and through our communities. Even if it is being diverted, it's still going untreated into the ocean and still impacting all the way to Coronado. So I believe in the last minute 333, they had discussed diverting the effluent from Arturo Herrera and La Morita into Rodriguez Dam to prevent there being year-round flows in the river, which we shouldn't have during dry weather. So any updates on that?
Yes, that actually did start. So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 is ongoing, which is working on the distribution lines. And then the next step, they're going to continue to work to rehabilitate both of the treatment plants, La Morita and Arturo Herrera, as well as finish the final stages to be able to pump to upstream of Rodriguez Dam. So those are underway. The second phase has not been funded yet, but they're starting the environmental documents both through the EPA and NatBank, and Mexico will be starting those. So that will be one of the goals to be started next year. It might not be done in 27, but that is going to happen. That will reduce flows in the river by about 10 MGD, which is significant for us because that just gets us down to a more manageable flow at PBCLA. So they'll be able to handle that flow with no issue. And PB1, that one will be started later this month. So once PB1 is rehabilitated, it will have sufficient capacity. So we won't have to modify our flow to support PB1, they will be able to pump and we'll take the wastewater.
So if my math is mathing, the treatment, our treatment plant will be doubled in capacity up to 50, right? So we'll be able to take the additional 25, 10 will be diverted to the Rodriguez Dam, that's 35. There's still about 10 unaccounted for. So I guess the question is, when will we reach the zero flows and 100% solution to the sewage crisis as has been promised by 2027?
So we promised zero flow during the dry season. So we were trying to do that this year. We're still going to try and do it this year. The more projects that get done in Mexico, the closer we'll get to that. So we are working on that goal. PB1, once PB1 is completed, and that is an 18-month project. So that is going to go into 2027, but it's going to be done they will be fixing a pump and then moving to the next one. So they'll be building capacity while it's being rehabilitated. So if they can get us 2 more pumps as soon as possible, then we're in good shape in the dry season. And so even right now, without any rehab, we are asking Mexico, let's get as much as you can out, especially with us taking the 35 MGD and also taking higher peak flows. We might be able to get there, and that's really what we're looking at right now.
Thank you so much for that response.
You're welcome.
Sorry, guys, we have a hard stop at 5:30. It's 5:31. I do need to make one more motion to continue agenda items G, Air Pollution Control Officer Report, and H, Planning and Policy Committee Report. So I'd like to make a motion to move that to the next meeting. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll?
Thank you. Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Campbell? Member Duncan?
Aye.
Member Fitzgerald? Member Gloria?
Absolutely.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Koval?
Yes.
Member Lawson Remer? Member Stigler Granados?
Yes.
Substitute motion to continue it at the Brigantine.
Chair Burke Garcia.
Aye for both.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye, and with members Campbell and Lawson Remer absent. And Fitzgerald. And this meeting is adjourned.